I don't like food either, but I know.
They're trying to take it out of that one. We might be now. I did talk to him the other day because I wanted to let him know. I mean, I was with Wayne Ishmael. If that's on the Wayne Schmidt's Senator on Appropriations. If it is, I'll make sure I'm on it. All right. My people are out. Yeah. Yeah. As long as you do it by November 30th. So I have issues. I went through it. I like where we're at. I did talk to Josh Wyman, who has a relationship with the MML, and they probably should have brought in 25%. So glad you brought a copy because I didn't bring my copy.
Yeah, I didn't bring mine either.
You did say that you can Caroline, Lindsay, Caroline, following this meeting, just a quick conversation over what's going on with administrative. What was that gonna? Other than if you need to borrow it. Oh, you were right on the 25%. Did I? It's 20-25%. I sent you that. It's actually, yeah, it's 20-25%. I didn't put it on the agenda because you just asked for follow up.
Yeah.
So I figured I gave you. Yeah. But nobody comments because it's not intended to be that way.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, if that becomes a topic, then I don't have it. Weird. Yeah. Even with our projections versus a lot of these communities, because they chose to not manage things very well. And Marquette things. Now they're
all right, well, we are at 6 o'clock. All right, and I think it looks like we're live on Zoom, and we've got
Jason, you're able to hear us on Zoom?
Loud and clear.
okay. Then we are also live on Zoom, and it's 6 o'clock, so we will call the meeting to order. Kathy, roll call, please.
Mayor Bean.
Here.
Councilmember Chapman.
Here.
Councilmember Furby. Here. Councilmember Scanlon.
Here.
Councilmember Scud.
Yeah.
All right, and then Mr. Scanlon, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wow, I get that out of order, even when I'm staring at it. Number 3 was roll call. All right, so that brings us to item number 4, which is public comment. So we will start with anyone who is in the room. And so remember, so if you are here for public comment, you can come up to the podium. It is limited to 5 minutes. State your name and where you're from, and I think we have someone in the back who would like to provide public comment. And give us just 1 second, and we'll switch cameras. Well, you can make your way up there, but oh nope, the podium. Sorry. Yep. Okay. Give us just 1 second.
Oh, me? You know, jerk. Okay.
Okay, I think you're good.
Hi, I'm Liz Nevela from the Ishpeming Salvation Army. I don't know if I've ever I've talked with people in this room, but I've never been to public comment before. And I just thought I'd give you a little idea of what the Ishpeming Salvation Army and the Marquette one together is up to right now. We are having the 12th, we're gonna have a huge, it's called Treeganza, and it's gonna be at the mall. You're all invited. We're having 10 trees that different businesses have supplied. We're giving away the trees to clients and to the women's shelter and stuff like that. If you have any questions or you want to come, we'd love you to come. Call me at 486-8121. We'll give you more details. We have utility funding right now. Call us for that. We also have our food pantry open 4 days a week. We are delivering to shut-ins too. So you just have to call and we'll help you out. We have our Christmas sign-up going right now. And all you have to do is, we have a website you should go to, saangel.org, or angeltree.org. And we can help you. I don't know if you guys are allowed to ask questions or whatever, but we're here for you. I guess I've been doing this job for 20 years. Maybe I should be more out and about, but I'm in my office trying to be good. So any questions, I know Jason is coming and I sure appreciate that, the 12th. It's really, we're trying to let the public know more of what we're doing and how we help and stuff.
And could you just be more specific about what the mall means for people?
Oh, I'm sorry, the Marquette Mall.
Okay.
And they're gonna have 10 different agencies, different local agencies, have paid to have these trees decorated. You go online, you vote for the tree, and then there's a winner, and they announce it that night, next Friday night at 6. And whoever wins, I don't know what they get. They get something. I don't know, I don't have a tree, but they get something. But the nice part is that we're giving the 10 trees away, like to the women's shelter, room at the inn, and they're fully decorated, and it's gonna be really nice for the clients.
And do you have a Facebook page or something that
We
could
sure
be
do.
shared?
Marquette County Salvation Army. And we put all our stuff, and we're looking for bell ringers too. Well, you people look like you could be bell ringers. It's so much fun. Both my kids have done it and said they're never doing it again, but it is fun, I swear. So, any other questions? Okay, call us at 486-8121 and we will fill you in on anything. We just want the community to know we're here for them, okay? All right, especially during everything. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the update.
All right.
All right, is there anyone else in the room for public comment?
Hi, my name is Maureen Lewent. I live at 241 Douglas Street in the city, and I need to speak to you tonight regarding Lake Bancroft. The health of its waters will affect our city's entire future. Everyone here and everyone everywhere is aware of climate change. As temperatures rise globally, Ishpeming can expect to have more hot summers like the one we just experienced. And these higher temperatures will have a major impact on the water quality in Lake Bancroft. There was a significant algal mat on the lake by August of this year, and it's likely we'll continue to experience green, stinky waters in the coming years if nothing is done to remediate the situation. If you walked or drove by the lake in August, you would have seen it was so green that it could no longer reflect the sky. To understand how algal matting and poor water quality are related, I'm going to take you back several years to show you how this problem is not new to our lake, but it's a re-emerging phenomenon. Like anything else, Lake Bancroft has a history. Over time, as the town changed, Lake Bancroft lost previous connections to inflowing or outflowing water, and this has led to problems with stagnation. Lake Bancroft is a closed system. Its problems can be summed up by the biological term eutrophication. which put simply is the process of making land out of water. As a body of water is filled with sediment, as Lake Bancroft has been filling for close to 50 years now, its chemistry changes. It loses oxygen. Instead of being a healthy aerobic environment, it becomes anaerobic. Lakes that have a lot of anaerobic activity going on in them turn into swamps, and swamps stink as they develop. As a swamp's development progresses, it eventually dries up and becomes a landmass. We are again entering what is called Lake Bancroft's swamp season. It doesn't have to be this way, and I'm here to tell you why. If you look at the handout from the flyer I created in 2002 with the help of Stacy Willey of Globe Printing, you can just follow along with much of what I'm going to be telling you. Ishpeming has the money, the previously purchased equipment, and the DPW workers to easily reverse this situation and restore our lake's health. This is due to the Lake Bancroft Committee's operation from 2011 through 16. Using money donated by Ishpeming citizens and businesses, the committee purchased a pump to use with 2 block hogs. And these hogs are large, specialized steel tubes. We then pumped water through the hogs using food grade over food grade polymer logs, which then disintegrated and changed the water quality, restoring Lake Bancroft to an aerobic, healthy state. This equipment, including donated piping from Lindbergh Construction, is entirely in DPW's possession. All you have to do to set it up yearly, and this is the rub, is put one hog midway out into the lake and keep another on shore emptying into the lake. You fill each hog every 4 to 6 weeks with new polymer logs, of which you already have a very large supply. You even have a pontoon boat to use when you need to refill the hog that's placed midway out into the lake. This system worked so well from 2013 through 16 that it kept Lake Bancroft aerobic until last August heat forced things back into an anaerobic state. You have to put this system in place every spring and remove it every fall, so it's somewhat labor intensive. And it's also a bit inefficient, as the polymer logs only dissolve partway inside the hogs. The water aeration leaves a bit to be desired. We don't have any worries though, because Carl Baldwin of UPEA, who headed the project, has since designed a better, more efficient system that, once installed, would never need removal. A system so good, the polymer logs will dissolve completely in the well-aerated water pumped through it. To pay for it, you start by tapping into the leftover $13,000 in the city's Lake Bancroft project account. You would probably not need to spend that much more on the system which can guarantee the continued survival and success of this town. Because after all, who wants to live or do business in a town that stinks in summer with a swamp on one end of its major roads?
All right, so you have reached your 5-minute time limit.
I've reached it?
Yep.
Okay.
But
Can I just add briefly, if you look at the stapled sheets, you'll be looking at Carl Baldwin's system. The platform would be built if Carr asked for funds of Lindbergh. It would likely be built for free, and it would just dovetail into the previous area investment in the Mining Heritage Pavilion. And I'm requesting that this item be put on next meeting's agenda. Carr would accompany me, which is very important because he can answer questions in detail that I cannot. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
That's okay. Because we pay UPEA to.
Okay. And just on a side note, that I know that Lake Bancroft is something that we have been, have discussed within this past year. So not, it's definitely on our radar. So,
Thank you very much.
okay. Is there anyone else for public comment?
Claudia Demer, State 21, Marie Street in Ishpeming. In 2014, the city of Negaunee mayor and city council had members of the public removed from the podium by the police because the council didn't like what they were speaking about. One member of the public sued the mayor and council for an open meeting act violation. And guess what? A member of the public won the lawsuit against the mayor and council, and the city even had to pay the attorney fees for that member of the public. At the September 8th, 2021 council meeting, wage increases were given for non-union employees. City manager said the chief of police didn't get a pension or insurance. The council voted to give the chief of police increases based on information given to them by the city manager. The chief of police does get a supplemental pension and the health insurance, which is paid in full by the city at $1,936.70. You know what's really concerning? The chief of police knows he gets a pension and insurance. Why didn't he speak up and say, excuse me, but I do get a pension and insurance? It's the manager's job to give truthful and factual information so the council makes good decisions. Given the facts, the council should do the right thing and rescind the motion giving those increases. Non-union employees were almost always given the same increases that union employees negotiated, and they were satisfied with those increases. But now you have greedy employees who think they're worth more than other employees. People always wanted to work for the city of Ishpeming. Not anymore. No applications for a finance director, 2 for the general foreman position, and employees quitting and no one to replace them. And it will continue this way until you get rid of this city manager and get better leadership. Otherwise, this city is going to go further in the gutter.
Yep.
Lisa Thompson, 208 South 2nd Street. This is only the second meeting I've been to. Is it okay if I address someone personally?
No.
No? This is only the second meeting I've been to, so I'll just address it to all of you. And the same person has been incredibly negative and made personal attacks both times. And she seems to think she needs to preface what she says by telling you you can't remove her from the podium. But some of us would like to come and not have to hear that every single time that we're here. I appreciate you, and I don't think you needed to speak up at the last meeting. And Craig, I also appreciate you, and it's impressive that you've taken as much of this abuse as you have. And I would not be disappointed in any of you if you find a way to make the negative stop. Because personally, it's been 2 meetings and I'm sick of it, so I can't believe you're all sitting here. And it seems like somebody wants to see people don't want to work for the city, but we're lucky we even have a city council at this point with the negativity that's getting spewed at the meetings. So thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else for public comment?
My name is Ivor Mercer. I live at 612 2nd Street in Ishpeming. I'd like to talk about the house at 310 West Street. I don't know how everything works in the city here, but I do know that I sent the city attorney a letter a while back about the dangers in that on that property, and I sent Pat, I think his name is, I sent him a carbon copy of it. I've been talking to the city clerk a little bit, and I had sent a freedom of information thing, and, you know, and I talked to her yesterday a little bit, and I was satisfied with, you know, some of the things she told me, but I guess after I thought about it a little bit, I'm kind of disheartened, because there doesn't seem to be any paper trail of anything to do with this house. Several of the neighbors around where I live at have complained about the dangers of this house. And I know that, you know, like, if you were to find a gun or a knife on the street, the police would be right there to get it because of the safety issue. Now, it's the job of the city to protect the citizens from dangerous things. And the safety for children, you know, around these houses and stuff is no different from the safety of the police officer going to protect someone. Safety is safety. And I don't think, you know, after talking to the city clerk, that there was any real things listed or any code enforcement violations have been enforced. In fact, you know, she told me that maybe the city council could come up with something that has a little more lighting to it to get some of these lighted houses taken care of. But it is a safety issue. And if you're not going to enforce these safety issues, you have to go. You're going to be liable for this disturbance. And I know you have an attorney here, but if you're not enforcing the codes, you're not doing it. So anyway, there's people that are interested in this kind of stuff going on around the city with these lighted houses, and you know, how did we get in this mess? You know, there has to be some accountability somewhere. So I'm kind of, with a couple other people want to look into this and see what's happening, why nothing's being done. And I don't want the city to be in trouble, you know, I love this now. Also, I want to thank the city clerk, because on Columbus Day, I wanted to protest at the post office, and I was told I couldn't, because of a city ordinance. But she got it straightened out, and then now people are going to be allowed to protest in the city of Ishpeming, according to how Marquette does it. You know, and like in Marquette, we always let the police know we're going to go somewhere and protest. That way we can come up with, you know, we do. Also, I would like to know how to get involved more in the city. There's not, I don't know if you guys ever have a public education day here to help citizens get involved and find out exactly what we do here, so people can become interested and not be afraid to come here and get up and talk in front of everybody. And so I'd say you have a learning day or something like that. Like, what is the job description of the mayor versus council? What does she do as mayor that's different than a rank and file city council member? Or, you know, what is the chief of police? He oversees the code enforcement, is my understanding. You know, how does all that work? Also, what does the public really have a right to do? You know, I mean, what can we do? What office? I mean, can I go into an office and say, hey, I want to see the notes? You know, I want to see the notes on these lighted houses. There should be some kind of a paper trail. People are calling and complaining about these meetings. Because if they're documenting this stuff themselves, and the city's not documenting, that's not very responsible. Because I'm sure when the police go on call, every residence, they know exactly how many times they've been to that residence, who lives there, and everything that's, you know, what every call is about. The same should be for any other safety issue.
So,
No, I've dealt with code enforcement.
excuse me.
Many times in my
Excuse me. So one of the great benefits I have of being mayor is that I get to tell you that your 5 minutes is up. We don't typically, you've been to a couple of meetings, and so we don't always respond to public comment. But we do have a blight committee, and so you asked about being involved, and so I think Kathy must have your contact information then. So perhaps you would be interested in having that passed along. And then Craig is telling me, so you can also send in reports to TextMyGov of any code enforcement issues. If you go to our website, there's a little thing that pops up for TextMyGov, and so you can text pictures and comments and things to that, and it also then you are subscribed for any alerts or announcements that we would push out also. And I do really like your Public Education Day idea, and I think that they do also. So thank you for your comments. Okay, is there anyone else for public comment? Okay, and there doesn't appear to be anyone else in the room interested in public comment, so how about on Zoom? Jason, is there anyone there? If you are interested in public comment, please use the raise your hand function.
Currently, no one has their hand raised.
Okay, going once, going twice.
Switch cameras back. Turn the microphone on.
All right, give us just 1 second. And
All set.
all set. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then we will move on to item number 6, which is agenda comment. If there's anyone in the room who would like to provide a comment on an item on the agenda, this period is limited to 3 minutes. Similar, you go up to the podium. Doesn't appear to be anyone in the room for agenda comment. How about on Zoom? Jason, is there anyone on Zoom for agenda comment?
There is no one on Zoom as well.
Okay. Last call for agenda comment. Then we will close agenda comment. We'll move on to item number 7, which is the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the previous meetings from October 6th and 25th, approval of disbursements, special event application for the Ishpeming Community Events Christmas Festivities 2021, special event application for CCSA Conference Championship Ski Race hosted by NMU on February 11th through the 11th through the 13th of 2022. Special event application for the Turkey Trot on Thanksgiving, the 25th of November. Declare 146 library books as surplus. Appoint Daniel Harvilla to a 3-year term on the Planning Commission with the term expiring November of 2024. Reappoint David Lawler to a 3-year term on the Planning Commission with the term expiring November of 2024. Reappoint Brooke Ruthier to a 3-year term on the Planning Commission with the term expiring November of 2024. Reappoint Dave Johnson to a 3-year term on the Zoning Board of Appeals with the term expiring November of 2024. And recommendation to reappoint Stu Skug to the Central Dispatch Policy Board.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Then we will move on to item number 8, which is the monthly financial statement report. Who, are you going over that, Craig?
I suppose I am.
Your Honor, I brought up last month that we need to plug this gap. This is where Jim would come in and answer questions, and I don't think it's fair to have the city manager step up, but I think we do need to have somebody that can read the report and answer questions we might have. Whether it's our new contractor zooming in until we fill that space, or we have the treasurer come up, whatever we need to do, but it's, I mean, we can read what Craig's gonna read. So I don't know that that's the answer, but I think we do need to follow up, so next month we have something here.
We'll make sure the treasurer is present and talk to Plant Moran, but I'll have the treasurer present because she does the daily journals.
Okay.
Your Honor, just to be clear, I'll make a motion that we lay the monthly financial statement on the table until next month.
I'll support that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Then item number 9 is a public hearing on the 2022 budget and millage rates.
So we're just catching up. So we had a special conference earlier last week of last month. I believe that the budget that's been presented represents many discussions on planning guidance. It keeps the budget flat with the exception of the increases in salaries, and continues to look forward at the improvements with the MDOTs carrying forward into next year from this year. So there'll be some amendment from the 2021, which will result, but it's the MDOT stuff's been carried over. The $100,000 that we thought we'd execute or try to execute this year, there is no one available to execute any of that. We are going to have Lindbergh work on the ditching along the farm road by Bell Hospital to manage some of the runoff through the winter and then be able to get after it again in the spring. So that'll be a change that comes into the next year, carrying budget from 2021 to 2022. So there's a little bit of change that'll happen, but it won't affect the 2022 budget in a negative impact. It'll only bring forward. So pending any specific questions on the budget, it's not any change since last week. There wasn't any received comments, and no one's come forward on the agenda items. So.
Oh. Okay, thank you. So we will open the public hearing for the 2022 budget and millage rates at 6:30 p.m. And so I believe if there's, correct me if I'm wrong, but if there's comments to that, this would be the time to do that. Is there anyone in the room looking to provide input on the budget?
Camera swaps.
And correct me if I'm wrong, is there's no time limit to public hearing comment, is there? Okay. I won't tell you when 5 minutes is up.
I'll agree.
Okay.
Claudia Demers, 821 Marie Street, Ishpeming. Property tax millage rate to support the proposed budget to proposing 21.2744 mils. Maybe the city shouldn't have given the raises. And I see the council was looking at proposals from the Lake Superior Partnership again. When the council paid them in the past, it did absolutely nothing for the city. Instead of increasing our millage, maybe the council should use some common sense and start cutting back. I've looked at this budget, and it's spend, spend, spend. When are you going to give the tax-paying residents of this city a break? You're going to take another $187,085 out of the general fund, balance this budget. In the 2022 budget message from the city manager, he says, we must get on a sustainable path. Y'all should take that advice. With all the houses selling
in the city of Ishpeming at such high prices, there's no reason why this city has to up the millage.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Is there anybody on Zoom?
I've got no one on Zoom.
Okay. Hmm? Okay. Okay. Is there anyone else either in the room or on Zoom for addressing the budget? This will be the last call. All right, if not, then we will close the public hearing at 6:33.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we accept the budget as presented and move it tonight.
Support for discussion purposes. I do want to address a couple things here. Number one being the money that we are proposing to potentially work with the LSCP on. And we do have a new director for the Lake Superior Community Partnership and a contract on hand that will spell out what the city of Ishpeming will get from that. And I know that'll be further on the agenda, but I want to just admit that I understand, I guess, the apprehension that some citizens may have about going to the partnership again, because I did have some experiences in the past myself when I was a member of the Ishpeming Ski Club, and it was pretty hard to get the partnership to do anything for Ishpeming. I don't believe that's going to be the case this time. I believe that they are on the right track for working with the entire community, not just the city of Marquette. And I've been impressed with their new executive director. So I did want to, it has taken a lot for me to get to that point. So I did want to address that.
Well, and I think we have a pretty comprehensive discussion and plan that we'll be looking at very shortly. Does anybody have any other further discussion? Okay, then we had a motion and support of accepting the 2022 budget as it has been presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Then we will move on to item number 10 is the presentation from Jessica Flores on Preservation Forward. And I believe Jessica is joining us on Zoom. And welcome.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Just to confirm, you can hear me okay, right?
We are hearing you. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, great. Not too loud, I hope. So I come delivering pretty good news. I'll share my screen in just a second here. But what I'm here to talk to you tonight is just about the National Register of Historic Places designation for the city of Ishpeming. Okay, so if you can remember, back in the fall of 2018, I began researching the history, the architectural history of Ishpeming in order to create a National Register of Historic Places historic district. I was hired by MEDC, and this was just completed actually in the fall of 20, but then it didn't become designated through the National Park Service until June 25th of 2021. So let me just, let me see, open up my screen here just for a second. Can you all see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So how this, and I'm just kind of, Craig can ask me to speak this evening briefly about what does this new designation mean for the city of Ishpeming. And so just to let you know that this is honorific, and let me go here really quickly. There's nothing regulatory associated with this. Now you have a National Register Historic District, and I'll read the boundaries to you. It's Main Street between Front and Division Streets, including selected properties on Front and East and West Division Streets. So this map here, let me kind of see if I can make it a little bit larger, really encompasses what your National Register District is. And it's the Ishpeming Main Street Historic District. So what does this mean? This means that commercial properties, let me see if I can advance to some slides here. Commercial properties that are located within the commercial historic district and are contributing to the district then can tap into various financial incentives should the owner decide to rehabilitate the property. Something else is that should the property come on the market for sale, this actually is a savvy tool for realtors and developers to know that should you purchase a building within the boundaries of the historic district and it's contributing to that district, then you can be eligible to apply for federal and state historic tax credits. There's also state agency funding as well through the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, through Michigan Department of Transportation, and also through cultural organizations like MCCAA, Michigan Culture, Arts and Cultural Affairs, sorry. Let me kind of go through, but essentially there's 22 buildings that are contributing to this district. Okay, and like I had said when I kind of first joined the call is that it's honorific. There's nothing regulatory to this. That doesn't mean that someone's going to tell you you can't paint your front door or you can't change a window out. It's honorary. The designation is something to be proud of. It means that Ishpeming has a rich history. The downtown has unique a variety of architectural types, ranging from a theater to a social club to turn of the century storefronts and buildings. And so it just has it depicts a really unique variety of types of architecture. Let me see. There's only 6 buildings that are non-contributing, that are not contributing, that are within the boundaries of the district. And that really is kind of a neutral thing. There's no positive or negative to that. So I had mentioned that it's honorific, not regulatory. Now, the question is that if you go and you receive a federal grant or there's federal dollars associated with the rehab, then as part of federal grant dollars, your project is typically reviewed at the state level. Okay. But as far as a local building owner wanting to go and paint their building or do whatever, there's no regulatory oversight to that. This is actually a development tool that a lot of communities wish they had, which MEDC funded for the city of Ishpeming. And it means that you can, if you're thinking about rehabilitating a building in downtown Ishpeming, this is another way to offset redevelopment costs. Okay. Yeah.
Excuse me, could you reference if they're contributing
Mhm.
buildings in that area? Can you define contributing? Is that just paying your taxes?
Contributing means that they they help to tell the story of Ishpeming. They were an important part of architecturally or for an event or related to a person. That means that they contribute to the overall character of the historic district, whether it's related to a person that was an early settler in Ishpeming or an architectural style. We use the term contributing, meaning that this building contributes, like the Butler Theater, it contributes in a recreation and cultural standpoint to downtown Ishpeming.
So you made that determination?
I worked with the State Historic Preservation Office and the National Park Service and made that determination.
So the owner really has nothing to do with whether it's contributing or not. It's included or it's not included. Is that correct?
Well, it's correct. They can opt out, but then they don't have any, I guess, They could opt out if they don't want to be contributing, but then that means that they wouldn't qualify for any incentives should they want to rehabilitate or work on their building in any manner. But in 2018, and I worked with the city council and worked with the existing city manager, and there was an ordinance, a resolution passed in support of a National Register Historic District for the Main Street in Ishpeming, for this location in Ishpeming.
Just for my example, if I owned the Butler Theater, I would be considered a contributing member.
A contributing building,
A
correct,
contributing building that I own.
correct,
Okay, that answers it, thank you.
sure,
And to clarify, contributing means that it contributes to the district, right? So
correct,
you said that the non-contributing are essentially neutral because they're not adding to the historic designation of the district, but they don't take away from it either.
correct.
Okay.
Right.
Good.
Some buildings have been a later, a more recent build or have been altered to a state that it doesn't contribute. It doesn't mean that it deters. It just means that it's not part of the 22 buildings that contribute to the district. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Sure, no problem. You're welcome.
And Jessica, you said that if you were to do a rehabilitation as an owner and take advantage of one of the granting options, that it would be reviewed by the state. What does that mean, reviewed by the state?
Okay. What this means that if you do own a building and it's contributing to the district, like Jackson's Hardware, that means that if they want to fix it up on their own, at their own volition and their own dollar, they can do that. If you receive grant monies from the state of Michigan, then there's typically a review process that goes into that as a result of receiving grant funding from the state. But that's separate, I mean, from the National Register. The National Register is a feather in your cap in Ishpeming. It's honorific. But if you do receive any grant dollars, any community, anywhere, whether they're designated or not in the National Register, you always have to go through a review process. I probably shouldn't have said that, should you, to throw you off at all. But the point of the matter is if you ever receive public money for a building, there's always an oversight as part of that. But just to have the designation in Ishpeming, there's no regulation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess I just wondered if the state could put a requirement on the historic preservation or restoration portion. Like, so we say it's honorific, and if I go and fix it myself, I can put whatever windows I want in the building. But if I
Right.
go and get state money, would they designate the type and structure of the window, or is it still honorific as a district? But as long as I'm spending the money to restore the building and appropriately keeping it as close as I can, but I don't pay for thousands of extra dollars in historic preservation beyond what's honorific, I guess.
You sound like you're you have a couple things going here. So if you do decide to get state dollars to rehab windows, then they're going to provide you with some guidance on the type of windows to put in there. But it sounds like you want to do the right thing and you don't want to close your window holes up, and you want to leave about the same kind of windows that were there originally. They're not going to prevent you from doing that. But this is something that when you're thinking about the future in Ishpeming, you should consider the past. So Ishpeming has some really good high-end, high-quality buildings that should be considered when you're thinking of redevelopment and planning and preservation efforts in Ishpeming. You don't want to lose any more historic fabric. You have a nice, dense, architecturally intact downtown. So how do we take what we have now, this awesome designation, and we move forward? How do we take that and not go and slap vinyl and inappropriate things onto buildings, but we actually say, hey, maybe we should peel back some layers of these buildings because they're good looking buildings and we got something here, and we want Ishpeming to be unique and authentic and not like anywhere else. So
Yeah, thank you. I was just trying to, because I'm sure that our YouTube is watched by many, and some point a developer is going to want to know what they might be required to do as they make investment decisions, and just understanding a little bit from your perspective what that review process might add or take away from the difference between honorific and a granted dollar figure, so.
Right, so it's honorific. If you use somebody else's money, the public's money, then that means that there is some oversight in that. If you go and you purchase the building from, or the window from Jackson's Hardware or Menards or somewhere, then there's no oversight in that. But this is something that is a tool. Developers, savvy developers know that if you're going to they're going to purchase the building in Ishpeming, they're going to look to see if it's contributing, because they know that contributing buildings have incentives that are connected with incentives that they can apply for. So a developer that may be looking for another storefront from Marquette or what have you, looking for a second location in Ishpeming, they'll do their due diligence and their homework and say, oh, the Butler Theater is listed, it's contributing to the commercial Main Street Historic District, and I know that I can qualify for 20% federal tax credits and 25% state tax credits. So it's something to not look at as, oh, are they going to tell us that we can't do something? It's actually something you should market in your community.
So does that get reviewed by like the State Preservation Society, or who is the one that does the review process for that?
Okay. So do you mean the overall National Register nomination and designation, or just
Well,
window?
if somebody wants to go through and go through the process of getting some federal or state help to rehab a building or whatnot, who does actually do the review on that?
Who does the review? Typically, it's the State Historic Preservation Office. Who provides a lot of the money is the MEDC, which is where the State Historic Preservation Office is housed within. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and that's what I figured. I just wanted to make sure that was on the YouTube also.
Sure. I mean, this is something that to be proud of and to celebrate and to actually market. Come to Ishpeming and purchase a building, one of the contributing structures, because you can be eligible to apply for different financial incentives to offset your cost of rehabilitation. There's a lot of nearby examples of successful tax credit and other MEDC funded and MDOT funded projects that we could use as examples. But just for brevity is that if I were in Ishpeming, I would be promoting smart planning and preservation working together and seeing this is something we need to market. It's a tool for economic development, revitalization of your downtown core. I'm happy to field any additional questions as well. I know there's a couple of you that have been there in the long haul with me, and I appreciate your patience having gone through the pandemic. Kathy and Ishpeming, Stu and Karen Casper, I just want to say thank you. You all have been along in the process and know that it was a little bit lengthier than we would have liked, but we made it to the finish line. We have the designation. And so now what do you do with it?
And it seems,
One thing, Your Honor, that I would like to see is that if we could get Jennifer up here and make a afternoon presentation, invite the 22 people as well as public that's interested, and do a little news announcement and then have a little workshop. So I'm sure that the 22 people are all very interested. Yeah.
Right, I think so too. I think that, and I'd be happy to talk with them, let them know what's available to them, partnering with the community assistance team representative that covers the Upper Peninsula. There's a variety of different financial incentives for historic rehab to bring new business into communities, to retain our existing businesses, especially with the ARPA funds now. And so this is kind of the time to, if you're thinking about doing something with your building, this is the time to do so.
Yeah, and this is something that people have talked to me about. So I do want to just thank all the people who worked on that. Karen, I know you're here and you did a lot of work on that, so thank you.
It sure seems like it's a win-win. It's a win for someone looking to buy and develop a building, and it's a win for Ishpeming, and pretty much no downside to it. So thank you for those who worked on it.
Yes, thank you so much. I've especially, just some of these really unique anchors in your community, like Anderson Block and this stretch of buildings here on Main. Jackson's Hardware, one of the only mid-century modern. It's got that really great, just saying, mid-century curb appeal to the upper facade. I mean, you guys have some real gems that other communities downstate we don't have. We have nothing like the Anderson Block. So be really proud of what you have here and let's celebrate it. One final thing I would say is we got a really unique building right here, 121, 123 East Division.
Yeah, Jessica, we can't see that slide. We're still stuck on your first slide for some reason.
Oh, I've been scrolling through a little presentation here. Okay, let me try this one more time. I'll show it to you really quick so I can be brief. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but
there you go. Now we see it.
Yep.
Okay, so you have some great anchors in the community, really I call them the bookends, really anchoring your National Register district here, the Rock Barn, this kind of swath of really nice looking buildings here on the west side of Maine. Just giving you a quick little look here. A good looking Oddfellows Hall and building here on the corner, another really good anchor. I think about those bookends at an intersection. We got the Butler. David's really great building here, Main Street Antiques. Okay. Anderson Block, nothing like it downstate. We should celebrate it. We should market it, whoever the owner is. There's a lot of different incentives to redevelop this property. This is one of those important bookend properties. Jackson's, I love this. I don't see a lot of this really intact mid-century upper story facade here downstate. And then I wanted to kind of end on this little gem here because I think that maybe sometimes people don't see this, but at 121, 123 East Division, we have what we call as a Mesker Brothers storefront. And this is actually a metal storefront. This is pretty unique. I don't know if it's behind this kind of pent roof or not, but this is just something, it looks a whole lot like the 1898 catalog. You could order a storefront from the Mesker Brothers out of Evansville, Indiana. And so there's a connection here. Somebody ordered this and put it up on this building on Division Street. So I just wanted to call attention to that sometimes you have to look up and notice things. And this was one that really stood out to me. So the Main Street Historic District, it was eligible under criteria A and C, which is it's important for an event. The early settlement of Ishpeming and the finding of settlement around iron ore. And then C for unique architectural types. And with that, I'll just stop my share. I'll answer any additional questions that you have. Pleased to have been a part of it and worked in Ishpeming, and hope that this might be a segue to some future redevelopment efforts in downtown.
And Jessica, can I share your contact information with the developer if they asked a little bit about how the history might look or how some of the programs might tie? I know I normally share Jen Tucker with MEDC, but some of the historical questions maybe are more yours than Jen's. So
sure, be happy to help in any way, and you're welcome to do that. Any other questions anyone might have?
All right. It doesn't look like we have any questions.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank
it was
you all.
Very interesting and definitely a win-win. So thank you and everyone else for your work on that.
Yes, thank you everyone in Ishpeming. I appreciate it.
Okay. Moving back to the agenda, we are on number 11, Lake Superior Community Partnership Proposal. So I think, Sarah, that's you. You're welcome to go to the podium. Probably give us just a second to reorient.
Hi there, thanks for having me here again tonight. And before I get started, I want to thank you for your supportive comments earlier. I really appreciate the opportunity to present this proposal and to work with the city of Ishpeming. I really enjoyed the excitement and the forward-looking vision for council that I've seen so far, and I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to talk more with you about how we might be able to help you tonight. And I also want to say I recognize to some extent this is a leap of faith, and that you put a lot of trust in me here and even just presenting this proposal. And I recognize that and want to let you know I'm honored by that. And
Just for the record, you're very clear that we severed Lake Superior Community Park,
yes,
just for people that might be interested. And you're also very clear, as I am, that you're gonna step up to the plate and you're gonna sell us things. We're not donating anything.
yes,
So if
yes.
anybody's wondering about the new relationship we have, it's a two-way street and we all understand that. That's correct.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
So with that, would you like me to walk through the proposal real quick? Okay, we met last month, or maybe it was the end of the month before, to talk about what some of the priorities were that you were looking for help with. And I took that back, and Craig and I went back and forth a little bit, and talked about how we might present this in a way that makes sense, given that there were several priorities that were identified in that conversation and a few different ways that we might come at it. We talked about having a specific deliverable that we develop and provide to you. We also talked about having a more open-ended contract where we're essentially providing capacity for the city. And we wanted to give you essentially some options to choose from. So the proposal has, I guess I would say, 3 different scenarios. And the first would be a deliverable-focused contract. And there are 2, I called them focused partnership services. There are 2 of those focused service options there. One is communications and marketing support, and one is for neighborhood improvement, planning, and remediation. And that's sort of an umbrella title for some of the blight conversations that we had about how you might want to organize around blight remediation, and additionally some housing services and neighborhood planning along with that. So the first option would be to just pursue the communications and marketing support as a specific contract. The second option would be to only pursue the neighborhood improvement, planning, and remediation services as a contract. I guess I should say there's 4 options. We could also do 2 of those together, but then we also provided another option that would get to that more open-ended capacity building scenario that would include both the communications and the neighborhood improvement activities, along with support for redevelopment-ready communities implement. I guess I should say progress. Does that make sense to everybody? It was kind of complicated as I was going through it, and I was trying to figure out how to structure it in a clean way. So that's essentially the gist of it. I can talk in a little bit more detail about what we would be considering with each of those. Would you like me to go through those in detail?
I do have some more questions. So for the redevelopment and community support, that is only available under the umbrella of the capacity building partnership activities?
Yes, and I'm glad you asked that question. And the reason I included that only as a broader contract is because it would require some additional capacity, and we would have to plan for staff to be able to provide that. So we want to be sure that we're appropriately staffed for.
So the redevelopment ready community support, or I guess that's the one that would require the additional staff.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
And I think that we still, at least I do, I think we still need education on the rural development ready.
Redevelopment ready.
Redevelopment ready.
We're already rural.
So Marquette just achieved theirs, and they are now a redevelopment-ready community. That was in the news, so.
If you go to their, at the last meeting, as we were talking about it, I pulled up the website, and you can go through, like, just while we were talking about it, I had a decent awareness of it, I guess, but you can scroll through and look at what all of the items are and what the different tiers of being that redevelopment-ready certified community is. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that then qualifies as, it signifies to the state and to potential funding opportunities that we have done our due diligence and we are really ready and committed to redeveloping our city.
And it also sends a message to potential developers as well that Ishpeming is taking the steps to, redevelop their community and become, more of a 21st century business-ready community. So
We've done.
really.
Is how we measure that, that's where we're filling in the.
The Trello board is
That was where
the,
that conversation was with Chris Germain from MEDC. He's our ready development community, redevelopment ready community, point of contact / subject matter expert from MEDC. And he and I worked through the Trello board. The Trello board is what our status is on an ongoing basis. And, things get done and some of them have an annual requirement. It recycles itself back to the left side of the board and you got to move it back to the right. And when you get everything moved to the right and you get certified, then you are the RRC development ready.
And personally, that's pretty important to me that we get to that point.
well, it's saying that we've done our homework and our due diligence and that we are in fact ready for people to invest in Ishpeming.
And that we have a program. It's not, it's a program of services, your development guide doesn't, it's a living document, just like our budget. It doesn't end just because you've pushed everything to the right. It recycles itself back to left and you got to keep up with that on a regular basis. And that's where that engineer planner kind of thing is missing in our gap. And it's missing across the communities, even in Marquette, where Marquette's a bigger city, they have engineering and planners where they were able to do this. And it took them quite a while to get there. But very few communities in the whole of the UP are in that. I think there's 2 in the whole of the UP right now, so.
Another thing to point out with the redevelopment of the communities is the qualified information on there's some services that can see only if you're in our.
We know who the other community is. Newberry? Correct me if I'm wrong, but
Well, I think Bessemer was. I don't know if I think Bessemer still is. And then
Newberry fell off, I believe, but that's who I worked with.
Fell off.
Yeah, I worked with Newberry when I was in Sarah Kimbenzi's office, and so I know a little bit of the value for the redevelopment ready community stuff. I don't know if Newberry hung on to that. I know Escanaba fell off.
Escanaba fell off. I think Charlie Loper and Bessemer and Marquette are the 2 right now.
Okay, so Newberry might have fell off too, but I know that they were going through the graduation process too when I had left Rep. Kimbenzi's office.
So I think your question was, would we like you to go through each one of these with a little bit more detail? And I think that would be prudent unless anyone doesn't think we need that.
So I'll start with communications announcements. And one of the activities we identified was putting together a communication plan to identify your overall goals for communication. And I want to be clear, this would be a inspection and a lot of communities that process. That is a more intensive process than what I have envisioned based on our conversation last time about our communication plan. The intent of the plan is essentially to identify exactly what we're trying to do. Some of the must-do we're trying to get out there, what the timeline is, just a basic strategy for communications so we can be more proactive and unify and how we communicate the information. So I don't see that as being a huge months-long ordeal. It would be essentially
Sorry, may I just, one of our residents made a public comment and this might fit in there that they recommended maybe a public education day this would fall into that portion of this contract, is if in our strategy, we said we wanted to have a public education day, we could set a quarterly or some sort of schedule within that strategy, that plan that you're talking about.
That's exactly right. And one of the deliverables for the beach coordinating events, and one of the things that we included was at least one or two community updates, and that might be the public education day, or it might be the public education. The idea being that we would work with the city to identify essentially an agenda and desired outcomes for the event, and then for the events and all that stuff. So that's exactly right. That's one of the things that we do. That element of the contract. Another, going down the list, we also talked about social media at our last meeting, and we included a level for putting together social media content on events, meetings, engagement opportunities, and city assets. And we will be doing that across a variety of platforms. Again, just to be clear about what we were able to do, we weren't able to do. We would provide content in partnership with the city, but we would not be, I guess, for lack of a better term, managing the communications on social media. So we don't want to be speaking for the city, responding to comments on social media. It would be great content. But we would have a timeline and again a strategy that we would know how often and what we would be posting. We'd also be putting together materials and bring outreach to businesses and developers about city assets. And the presentation earlier on this representation, I think it's a great example of how that might work and some information that we want to communicate. And by the way, I want to say I'm super excited about that. That's an amazing honor, and I'm really happy we've got that information. And it is a great asset to not just developers, but to community. But that's something that we were doing in communications services is regular outreach on economic development opportunities. And then finally, we have those events and activities. And I mentioned, I talked a little bit about the community updates, but based on our discussion last time, I think it would also be helpful to have some regular conversations with businesses. So a roundtable kind of situation. Maybe start with one and see how it is, see if you want to do it. If they want to do it regularly, and great idea. I do think having regular business conversation would be great for what we do. So that's the communications section. Are there any questions on those specific things? The next one is neighborhood improvement. Planning and remediation. And at our last meeting, there was quite a bit of conversation about some of the potential solutions to light issue. And I think there's a lot of options. Maybe some of them focus on enforcement, maybe some of them a little more proactive. But just having, I guess, a laundry list and some guidance on how the city wants to take action and implement those solutions would be a first step. And so, similar to the communication planning that we included in the first section, we would start with an action plan to identify what those opportunities are, including things like funding sources of grant programs, enforcement, training, communication with the community, all of those different avenues we might need to address some of those issues. Put that together as a simple, pretty simple, straightforward action. So that we would know what we were doing, and from there we would coordinate some trainings and gather some information from the city council and staff. We would bring in outside experts on those issues, just to make sure everyone has the right information. And then we would essentially begin the implementation of best practice, starting with some of those funding needs, opportunities, grants, what resources might be available. And I know there are some out there right now. In fact, there's Michigan is looking for applicants for the enhancement program. So things like that, we've been But we'd also be looking at things like what are opportunities for housing development, and what are some of the partners that we can to address that positions. And Marquette's been a part of the conversations on level with other units of government about how we might all work together on some of those housing opportunities. And so this is, I think, a way to bring that into the city in more formal way. And then along those lines, we would be building stronger partnerships and more partnerships with neighboring units of government and county government for all of those symbols around trying to figure out some of our more less visible on that. So that's number 2. Are there any questions on those activities?
Nope.
And then the redevelopment writing communities, this is the one that's a lot more connected. As we talked about last time, there's a big long list here of numbers of our city activities that need to be done, and we kind of went through them, sort of separated out some of the bigger ones that the city may be up with, and we would, in this contract before asking you to approve the contract, we would work with city staff to identify some specific activities and benchmarks, maybe more so than deliverables, to ensure that we are making progress towards RRC, because as you mentioned, it's a pretty long slog, and it can take a year or two to get into one of those activities. Master plans are a long process. So we would be looking for benchmarks that the city agrees to, that we would be looking towards, more so than the other. And then we would start work on those prioritized activities. One of the, I guess, to me, one of the ultimate goals of RRC is to have those development mindsets and being able to run the goals. And so we would be working with the city to identify those and start. I know that once you actually achieve RRC certification, there's a lot of support we can get on NBC and marketing rounds, and that's really one of the greatest values of RRC. But we can start going on that path. Right. Certification with finance. But those are the 3 main areas of activity. We would, like I said, we would be working closely with the city and staff to put together a work plan, have those benchmarks, make sure that we're all clear on the deliverables, and we would be providing regular deliverables to the city. Continue to look at writing reports to make sure that everyone is satisfied with how things are going and that we're meeting that target. And finally, the last thing I mentioned is maybe those blessings. Just wanted to keep sure that the city would be considering us and from the office.
Your Honor, do we need a motion right now to move forward with one of these projects? I would like to make a motion that we move forward with the capacity building partnership activities for $50,000 with the Lake Superior Community Partnership. And we go out on a limb, and they go out on a limb, and we continue to make Ishpeming better.
I'll support this. Where are the funds coming?
They are not projected at this point. We would have to look at the public improvement fund or the general fund.
I think this would be an appropriate, we have a relatively strong projection. No, go
We
ahead.
also have ARPA dollars this year that could be considered for this, I believe.
The thing that I have a concern with is, excuse me, we're making a decision for John Q. Public. And in your scenario, we're not doing the neighborhood improvement plan.
No, that
No, that's-
includes.
that's
We're doing
included.
both.
That's
Yeah,
included.
yep.
The
Yeah.
50's
Yep, and the
everything.
50 includes
The
everything.
50's What the LSCP is offering is a way to give you the à la carte menu items that you asked, which was to give you categories of opportunity. The capacity building was the RRC plus the 2 focus groups,
Yeah, so this is
the all-inclusive.
all-inclusive.
This is the whole
That's the whole
buffet.
menu, yeah, the whole buffet, right?
So I do think ARPA or the Public Improvement Fund would be appropriate.
So I don't know that anybody knows the answer to that question. I know that there's ways in which you can pay for salaries using ARPA, and I know you can pay for some of the infrastructure using ARPA, and then keep money in your general fund that you've used ARPA for. So if you put the ARPA dollars towards salaries and towards some of the infrastructure money, leave it in the general fund, you can use general fund dollars then to pay for this. So I don't want to say specifically ARPA dollars. I want to say that ARPA dollars are contributing to our overall budget strategy and may support the effort in a way, but I need legal advice, and everybody needs legal advice on ARPA right now. There's no one community that knows fully what ARPA is or is not allowing us to do. But I believe that I am correct in saying you can use it for infrastructure, you can use it for salaries, which then can offset a balance back to your general fund, for which you can then choose general fund versus public improvement fund, which that would not contribute back to. So
I didn't put either in my motion.
Yeah, so I think that a $50,000 ticket is quite large. It's hefty. I'm also, as I have said in the past, I'm a real firm believer that you have to spend money to make money. Now you can overdo that also, and a lot of people do. But looking at this, I look at the communications and marketing, and I think that's a steal for $12,000. Maybe not a steal, but like we need that. That's a good value for $12,000. The neighborhood improvement planning and remediation, that's been an ongoing issue. We've struggled to appropriately address that with the resources that we have. We just heard about some of that during public comment, and that's just one property. And recognizing that there's like one of those at least in every 2 blocks in a large percentage of the city. We definitely need help. And I think if there was one in here that if you had the public in here and they were all voting, I feel like that's the one that everyone would go for. Like, okay, we need this, absolutely. And then I look at the redevelopment ready community support, and we absolutely need that too. It's something we've been working towards. And that's really the spend money to make money down the road. And I think that dovetails very nicely with the historic designation that we've just received, and the ability to then use to use part of that and also some of the marketing and education potentially to get that out there. I just feel like all of that rolls together really well. And so although the $50,000 price tag is pretty hefty, I can't figure out how I would divide that out in a reasonable way otherwise, because I feel like it's all very important. And if I was only going to pick one, I think I would pick the neighborhood improvement planning and remediation. But I almost can't justify not picking the other 2 items because of their importance in moving the city forward.
I've already saved $25. This is in Saturday. By ordering a la carte and not having the 2 12.5s. Because I was thinking exactly what you are. Which one are you going to take out? Not thinking back to when we said 50,000 for the whole thing.
And that's one thing that this council has talked a lot about, is moving forward, is redeveloping Ishpeming. I think everybody on this council has, their eyes on down the road, but in the back of our minds, we want to protect our history too. So I think this is a major step. And, I am really happy with Sarah and what she's doing at the partnership, and I have a lot of faith in her.
I just, to be clear, I have to mention it, I love everything in this plan. This all sounds wonderful, but we just approved the budget for 2022 and this was nowhere in it. $50,000 is a big price.
It is.
Pull out of somewhere. And I am just uncomfortable with approving something and I don't know where the money is coming for it definitively.
Well, you're absolutely right, that has to be part of it. We couldn't make the motion without a sign.
Okay, so would we be able to take money from the public improvement fund, put into the general fund to do this? Because of what Craig has said about ARPA dollars.
My thought is that your best strategy is to say general fund. And I am 90% confident the ARPA dollars will do what I said, pay for salaries, pay for infrastructure, that then replenishes the general fund. And then you have the money out of that. We've received half of our total ARPA dollars already, which is, I think it was 671, so half of 671, 335 and some change, 336, something like that, in ARPA dollars that's sitting in the account.
300?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Okay, we're getting around 671. There was some math that was
6,000.
600.
$600,000.
$671,000. I'm sorry, I should be clear that way. Yeah, 671,000 is coming under ARPA, plus or minus some calculation changes that happened over the summer. And I think we're somewhere between 671 and 674. We received check one, which is half of that.
I would agree with Craig that we should leave it to the general fund. And like we've always said, none of it is concrete. You know, in a week, we might have to do an amendment and change things. So instead of saying we use public improvement money, just leave it in the general fund. And then if we have problems, our fund doesn't work out, we'll fix it whatever way we have to. But the funding is coming.
So I'll amend my motion then to have this come out of the general fund. Amend the budget for next year.
We know our initial.
We've received half of it, which is, and we know that, yes, we've been approved for.
Well, we just passed the budget.
Our application has been approved at the state to receive our ARPA dollars. And then it comes in two processes through the state, which is two different cuts. The first year is one half. We've received those funds. Not every community has received their funds yet, but we have received our funds and we know that they're there. So we know that the application went through, we know the approval went through, and we know that the check was cut.
The ARPA funding is unrestricted, correct?
No, ARPA funding has
Other
restrictions.
than the guidelines, I mean.
Correct.
We have assigned it to nothing.
Correct, they're not assigned
Right.
yet, and that's
And we
another,
have to follow the
and
requirements.
when we get the requirements, that'll probably show us another account in the budget under a budget amendment. But we're still waiting on some of that guidance to happen. No community is really sure. Some of them are hiring lawyers, some of them have lawyers, some of them are, you know, specifically ARPA dollar lawyers to make sure that we don't do anything wrong, and we're cautiously approaching that, but we do know that that money is there. It's in an account in the city of Ishpeming.
No.
Okay.
To come out of the general fund. Yeah. And I understand we just passed the budget, but sometimes we have to, I mean, maybe we should have had it the other way around, but things, you know, happen and, you know.
Well, the budget had a specific target date of October 15th. This packet was not prepared.
Right.
We were still working on it. So the budget by law was being processed appropriately based on the stuff we have.
Yeah.
It is a living document. You are allowed budget amendments. And now that we have ARPA dollars coming in, now that we have a decision on how we're spending those remaining $100,000 in funds on the street, so all of those things are going to change again it doesn't change your projection of the budget. We're not affecting anything that's documented in that budget, with the exception of now we're gonna process a way in which we consider ARPA dollars being reassigned in a way that supports the general fund to allow the $50,000 to come out of the general fund. If it doesn't, there's still that $50,000 in the general fund. We're just buying the general fund down further. So the money's there in the general fund now. You've got a proposal after the budget was prepared that would then be considered an additional cost of the general fund. And we have ways in which we might strategize replenishing that so that it comes out of a different fund or a different source of funding.
You know, the thing in the past has been, like this is the example, we just can't afford that. Well, nowadays, we can't afford not to. You're slamming the door on umpteen other potentially profitable events to help remodel your old building you've had downtown or whatever it might be. And we've gone from the old days when we didn't do nothing. Can't afford it, we don't do nothing. And we kept getting what we were getting. So now I think we're here, that's what we were elected for. We were elected to do the right thing for the city, and we're not perfect by any stretch.
And I will agree with Mayor Pro Tem Scanlon. He's exactly right that we were elected to try and move the community forward. That's what I heard the most when I was running for this seat, is how do we move Ishpeming forward? How do we stop looking at the past? And how do we bring more development into the community? How do we be more of a positive community? And I believe that we have a city manager who is looking forward. You know, you're not perfect, Craig. I'm not perfect. None of us up here are. But we're looking forward as a whole council now. And I think under Mayor Bean's leadership and our city manager, we have really made a lot of positive steps. And I think this is another one.
I would agree to that. That is overwhelmingly the comment that I receive, is that we're looking at the future, and that's why, in particular, I was elected.
That's why I was elected, yes. Yep.
So with that, since we have a support, or we have a motion and support with for the $50,000 capacity building partnership activities, at $50,000 coming from the general fund, to be determined how that may or may not be replenished, with the possibility that it may not be replenished and we will just be buying it out of the general fund.
Yep.
Worst case scenario. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm also really excited about what we can do. So this, I think this is a great step forward for the city, the LSC, and so thank you again.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and from there, we will move on to change the camera. And then we will move on to our next item. All right, are we set?
Yes.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the authorization for city treasurer to place delinquent accounts on the tax rolls.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we authorize the city treasurer to place delinquent accounts on the tax roll.
I do have a question. So I'm just curious, because I don't know, like, what happens after this balance goes to the tax roll? Obviously, it goes there, but what happens to the account if they've been, so first question, what happens to an account if they're delinquent and it has been turned off? If the balance is wiped at zero because it goes to the property taxes, does that change their account status as far as having services returned?
Not return services. They're still shut off, and they need to come in and make payments for at least the shut off notice and other things. But they're going to be notified that that tax roll is there. They can't pay on that tax delinquency anymore because the city is not responsible. The treasurer of the county is now responsible. So they have to make that payment separately against their tax bill, and they would have a new water bill start.
Okay, so it's,
Reimburses us.
At the end, when they collect all of this, we get a reimbursement for those delinquent taxes on our accounts.
And they have a little bit of, being on the board review for, I really asked a lot of questions of Jackie because that was completely out of my wheelhouse, but they have a little more, how do I put this? They can strong arm people a little better than we can, I guess, is the best way to put it.
so it's like being sent to collections, except collections is the county.
Correct.
Okay,
In a way.
We're
in
talking
that-
about different things.
We are,
We're
yes.
talking about utility bills.
Yes.
We're talking about delinquent taxes.
utility bills. I'm talking about the utility bills that get sent
They now-
onto
So
the
this
tax
isn't
rolls.
delinquent taxes.
No.
These now get
This
put
is
onto
this
the tax
delinquent-
roll.
Gotcha.
this Delinquent utility bills moving to the tax roll at the county.
Yes.
Yes.
So now
So
we've
it's
moved
a
it.
combination, and that delinquency in tax is still a strike against that resident, but in a different manner. Because if you have too many years of delinquent taxes, you end up with a
Loss of
possibility
your
of
property.
foreclosure and loss of property, which is managed by the tax side of things, not by the utility side of things. So they may wash their utility, they still have a delinquency that's still paying off, and they still have to make that restitution. We get restored payments by the tax commission from the county paying us for those missing utilities. When they get paid back off the tax
Right,
rolls
so
as a
they-
reimbursement back.
So
for
these will
what
get put
they
onto
paid
the
us.
tax roll. The county makes a little bit of money by, then there's now a
Fees.
fee because it's on this, but we get made whole, provided they end up paying it. Otherwise, we get made whole after the property
I
sells.
think we're still,
Okay.
I'd like clarification for next month, because I still think we're facing our tail. I'm
Th-
not clear on this.
This is something we have approved though every
We
year.
did every year.
Yeah.
But you used to get a list every month of the delinquent water bills and shut off.
Well, we do have a list in our packet of who's what's getting, who's getting rolled
Yeah.
You were
over.
getting a monthly?
I don't,
I think so.
that would have been before me then, yeah.
But this doesn't involve tax dollars. It involves utilities.
No, this is this is utilities that are being,
There's somebody on this list and the property is no longer, they sold.
that was my next question.
So whose tax roll does that go on? The new property owner's tax?
So the title company is responsible for clearing the title during the sale. And so they would have to look, is there delinquent taxes? A realtor is supposed to contact the city and check to see, hey, do you have any outstanding utility bills? Do you have any outstanding taxes? And they roll that into the closing costs at the transfer of sale. And
Yep.
so it gets deducted from the sale of the proceeds going to the person selling the property. If it's just abandoned or someone's gone, it gets cleared from the estate of the property.
So for example, I have two friends on here who both sold houses and bought new houses within the city of Ishpeming. They both owe less than $20, but the address listed is the address that they sold.
So it
So they
stays
don't
with that
currently
property.
live there anymore.
It does stay with that property,
That
yes.
stays with the property.
Then good thing it's less than $20, I guess.
And interestingly, I did have a person that came and sat with the city manager and I, and over this exact issue. The realtor did not check with,
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Is this that somebody didn't do their
So somebody
due
didn't-
diligence during the sale?
somebody
If it's
didn't,
related to a
yes.
sale, it's lack of due diligence on either the realtor's part selling, the realtor part buying, or the
yes.
title company.
So we did have that, we did set up,
Because we get calls on
This
a regular
this has
basis,
nothing
somebody
to do with
asking
the
us.
review board. It has nothing to do with the county. It has nothing to do with any of the stuff we've been discussing. It's us putting it on their tax bill this year.
Correct.
And
The
as far as
current, yes.
the title search, that's not our business.
No.
That's correct. No, right,
If the
that's,
sale happens and they find that there was a 500 or a 20, that's not on us, somebody owes us.
Yes.
correct, yes.
Yeah, we got.
Craig gave me,
I went down a rabbit hole.
well, Craig gave me a
Yeah, I
really good
guess-
education on this earlier, so that's how I kind of
Well, I
feel
was
like.
just, I was curious, because as I was looking through it, I recognized two names, and then
Yeah, I know,
I
I
wondered
have too.
how, and then as I looked at them, it made sense
Yeah.
that they,
And honestly, some of the things that drive us nuts is the time of year. So we do this roll up in October, it gets processed to the county, following the October
Into
before
November,
December.
yeah.
Has to be into the county before December, and then it gets put against that tax roll. So there's like this 2-month lag where realtors really gotta be concerned about the state of Michigan laws and whether or not there could be delinquent tax on a property.
And that's one thing that
But that's the state, that has nothing to do with, those aren't
we are
city
wiping,
rules.
we're
Okay.
basically wiping our hands of this, telling the county it's your problem and
Yep.
then we'll get reimbursed.
got it, okay.
And that's the simplest way I can, I guess, put it, but it is something we do every year.
Did we have a motion for that already?
Me.
And support? Okay, now that it's been thoroughly discussed, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. Then moving on to item number 13 is resolution number 13-2021, health insurance per Public Act 152 of 2011.
And Kathy, we have that board, can you just remind everybody how that, the 152? board-
We have to opt out.
Oh, that was the
Yeah,
345.
this is just for health insurance. It's Public Act 152 of 2011, which the council can either decide to go with hard caps, can go with the 80/20, or can opt out.
Oh, this- I got
Or
confused with
take the exemption option,
345.
which is section 8.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we take option section 8 and exempt ourselves.
I support that.
Yes, as I believe we have already agreed
We've already
to do
agreed to
this.
this, yes.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, good. All right, moving on then, is number 14 is the employee survey report. And so I have a printed report for everybody. Pass 3 that way.
Thank you, Your Honor, for doing this.
There you go.
We'd like to have one more for-
I did not, I'm sorry. Okay, so this was the survey that we had discussed previously that was administered during October. So the survey went out, it was mailed to all employees' homes with a return address stamped, postage paid, returned to me at my house. I went through, we had 41 surveys that were mailed, 23 of those were returned. That means that 18 were not returned. And so I went through, and the first 8 questions are,
If I can interrupt you,
yes,
I think it's important that you go over the groundwork that we put into this. And by that, I mean that we contacted both unions,
sure,
both union reps. We gave every employee in the city a half an hour off with pay to cover their time, because we had them do it at home, regardless of if they completed the survey or sent it or threw it away or burned it. They got a half hour paid leave. We did the super secret squirrel thing by sending it to their home and having it returned to Lindsay's. We did everything we could do to get good participation to make this a legitimate survey. Thank you.
okay, all right, yes. And so with that, so as I said, 41 surveys were mailed, 23 were returned. That's a 56% completion rate, which is, obviously there's room for improvement, but it's not bad either. That's fairly, I'd say it's like kind of middle of the road. It's not terrible. It means that is definitely, it doesn't invalidate any of the responses for having a 56% return rate. I put the first 8 questions in. They were Likert scale 1 through 5. And then for the purpose of the chart, I added in the no response, so there are 6 options in there that you're looking at, and that no response 18 number remains consistent for all 8 of those questions. Otherwise, if you look at the pie chart there, it has it broken down by color and percentage, and then I added the response rate to those, so how many of those responses were each one of those. So those were for the first 8 questions, and for the public, they were: 1 is I am proud to work for the city of Ishpeming. 2 is I enjoy coming to work most days. 3 is I enjoy working with others in my department. 4 is I find value or meaning in the work I do. 5 is I am recognized for my accomplishments by my direct supervisor. 6 is I trust my direct supervisor. 7 is I trust leadership. I trust city leadership, which is the city manager and city council. And 8 is I am well informed about important employee information, including schedules, important dates or deadlines, training events, etc. And they were able to rank all 8 of those questions on a scale of 1 through 5. Strongly agree, agree, neither agree or disagree, disagree, or strongly disagree. And for the purpose of this chart, it also includes a no response option. So that pie chart then becomes 100% of the workforce. Then there were 4 open-ended questions in which employees had about a quarter of a page blank space and could attach additional sheets of paper if they wished. Many did include additional sheets of paper, and some included many additional sheets of paper. And I transcribed all of this information into typed because having run surveys in the past and looking at this survey, I'm not familiar with individuals' handwriting, but that doesn't mean that maybe other people are. So, so it's all been typed out. And then for the purpose of this, so I'll go over those 4 questions. Question number 9 was: over the past several years, the city has experienced many changes. How have these changes affected your work? Number 10 was: over the past several years, new software or technology applications have been introduced. For example, BSNA, TextMyGov, PubWorks, GIS, computer kiosks, and cameras. How have these applications changed your work? Number 11 is: what are 2 things you would change about working for the city of Ishpeming? And number 12 is: what are 2 things you like about working for the city of Ishpeming? So those written questions, because when I looked at printing out all of this, there were 82 pages of total surveys and comments, and probably close to 30 pages just of comments, even once I had transcribed them. So Pat and I worked together on 2 occasions to condense comments into themes, and then he and I developed the actions that you see listed below those, which are intended to be broad actions, which we can work towards. So those are our actions for you, Craig, for us as city council, potentially for directors, supervisors, and foremen who also serve in leadership roles within the city. So those are kind of broad guidance. And for us as council, I know that one of the things we had talked about during your mid-year evaluation was a lack of specific goals or objectives, which was more on our part than yours, of having not provided that more specifically or asked for it more specifically. So we had discussed that these actions can be used to develop specific goals and objectives for 2023, or I'm sorry, 2022. I've already jumped ahead because we spent so much time talking about 2022. So this would be a starting point to develop measurable ways to achieve. Not all of the actions are immediately transferable into measurable goals or objectives, but they're a very good starting place. And then, as I said, the themes have been summarized with actions that address them. And then we discussed the implementation or the administering of another follow-up survey mid-year for 2022.
Your Honor.
One other thing, if I might, before it comes up, as I said, we tried to do this foolproof, no holes. Or somebody from council says, I didn't get to see the surveys that you two saw, because it'll come up.
I'm not going down that road.
We're gonna make it available. I asked her, and out of the goodness of her own heart, she said she would. If a counselor would like to go over them and like the actual ones, she'll meet with you. And probably here, whatever, but she'll hand them to you, let you review them in her presence, and then she'll take them back and seal them.
And I think that's the
So
appropriate
we
thing.
can protect
But
the sanctity of the surveys.
I want to address some of this on here, and I want to say we failed. Flat out. We failed. The fact that it says that the council, city manager and council are difficult to work with, we're not transparent, and don't care about employees, that line right there says we failed. We have to do better as a council and as a city, because the greatest asset to this community is our workforce. They are the ones people see, they're the ones people talk to, and we really do have to take a look at this, and we have to really look at what we can do better, because this should never come back. I truly feel like I failed. And I want to know how I can do better by our staff here in the city. I've known morale is low for a while, and fairness and respect for all employees, that's something we have to take a look at, and we have to figure out how we can make this better. I'm not gonna sit here and look at this and say, just throw it out. I'm gonna sit here and look at this and just admit it.
Well, first of all, I take offense to what you're saying. This wouldn't be here if we were gonna take it and throw it out. We went through this to find out where we were at. So I think that, and as Lindsay stated, I can get on the soapbox and say I failed. I don't think I failed. I've done my best, and we're gonna continue to do our best.
So to that end, that is why in the actions and follow-up on the top part, it says broad actions are identified for each of the open-ended questions. These are starting points for city leadership, city manager, director, supervisor, foreman, and city council to create and implement more specific goals and objectives. I don't think that this is a failing on any individual or collective group, but fail is a strong word. I do believe that there is a lot of room for improvement. Maybe you have an idea of things that you're doing wrong or good places to start, but until you've actually asked the question, and in the case of this, I don't think the question has ever actually been asked or asked in such a direct way. We have feedback. I would encourage you not to take it personally.
I'm not taking it personally.
I administer a lot of surveys at Eagle Mine, and it is very easy to read through things that are written and take it personally and to feel bad about it. And that's not the goal. The goal, and that's everyone's initial response. You read this and you go, oh my God. And once you do that, take a deep breath, put it away, think about it, come back, look at it again, and then figure out how you can improve.
Well,
hang on. A lot of this has to do with communication. And we've had a lot of change. There's been a lot of things that have changed within the city. And we have had a bit of a gap in leadership in some areas. If you look at the actions under, you read comment themes from number 11. And so the actions are improve and increase communication. Organizational structure and leadership are in progress, continue working to improve. That is a big one. And we've been working towards that pretty diligently over the past couple of months. And I believe that once those have actually taken action, that should help to address a number of those issues. Some of that is us. Some of that is within the city staff. Also, communication will forever show up on these.
Absolutely, yes.
We can work to improve communication, and we will work to improve communication, but it will also always be there. We can always improve on it. So I think that this is a great starting point, but I don't I mean, I want everyone to take it seriously, but I also don't want you to take it too personally, if that makes sense.
I'm not meaning to take it or make it personal. What I'm saying is that I looked at the pie charts 1 through 8, and then I looked at the questions. And the common theme is that we failed. I'm sorry to put it that way, but that's the only way I can put this, guys. We have to do better. We have to, all of us, we have to do better.
So
that's how I look at this.
We didn't fail. If we failed, then we should all just quit.
No, that's not what I'm saying either.
But there is room for improvement. And so there is room for improvement, but I would not say that you failed. We can do better.
We have to do better.
It's semantics, and I don't care.
There was actually more positive comments than I thought there would be.
There actually are quite a few positives, and so particularly in number 9, over the past several years, the city has experienced many changes, and how have these changes affected your work? So common themes were that there has been an increased workload, that there's currently low morale, decreasing staff, and less employee recognition, or I'm sorry, less employee appreciation. But there were also a lot of comments that recognized change and sees it as a positive. Also, I think that we have a tendency as people, as human beings, to jump to the negative, especially in something like this, that we have kind of a desire to like find the dirt and find the drama. And I think that we tend to overlook the positives. So it's really easy to focus on the negatives. There were a lot of negative comments, but there were a fair amount of positive comments as well. And so I think that it is important to maintain perspective and to look at the positives as well. And yeah, not focus too hard. A big concern going into this was separating the gripes from the legitimate concerns, and that's always a call that has to be made when you're reviewing these. And it's if you don't always know. And especially with our first one, it's a little hard to tell what are gripes and what are legitimate concerns. I will tell you that, we do at least 2 surveys a year at Eagle Mine, and there's a common comment that has been on every single one of them. It's been thoroughly vetted, discussed, whatever, but it shows up on every single one of them. At this point, it's a gripe. It was a gripe. It's been a gripe for the last 4 years, but it shows up on every single one. And the author of that comment, or those comments, would have you believe that that's the worst thing that's ever happened. But it's been thoroughly addressed. So this is our first survey. It's a bit of a learning experience for everyone involved. But I think that the important thing is to look at what the actions are, and then how we can turn those into measurable goals and get to work on them.
Well, and I promise that I will get to work on them, and I will do better. I'm not trying to just, I'm trying, well, yes, we, but I'm trying to just, I don't want this to be lightly taken. I want this to be looked at, and I'm not throwing it away. By saying we failed, it's, you look at the pie chart, and if this was a test, and I'm not saying just looking at the negatives, I am looking at the positives, but we as a council, we as a city have to do better.
Thank you.
Plain and simple.
Yes. Don't use the F word. Okay. So Stu.
My first what we did was this Marquette school. I think people we would where we failed. So many someone. I have. This is what job was that? Oh God, you're gonna put me in something in the legislature. I had something. So yelling on I worked at the golf course. Believe it or not, but no, I've seen, and we sent one out to our employees. Well, in an effort to save the evening, we'll let Jason think about that.
Okay.
I think it's important that we, as you said, that we look at an action plan. I think that's where we go from here.
Absolutely.
We're not gonna kick ourselves in the dirt, we're not gonna throw it away, we're gonna create an action plan and start picking these bad boys off the best we can. Like Lindsay and I discussed one question was the negative remark about the city council, city manager. We gotta separate that. Not to hang one or the other out.
Right.
How do we know where the problem is if we group us together? So, you know, in maybe 6 months, we do another one. We get going, we implement as much as we can, we learn from this, and then we fire another one out. That one, we might get 70% response.
But I also think it might be pertinent for the council to have an open workshop with the employees too. I don't know if that's something traditional, but it might be something that we sit here and we talk openly with members of the staff. We're not their boss, so.
So
It's a
I think
suggestion.
we can work toward that. So as I said, I would like to see some of the actions put into measurable goals and objectives for 2022. Recognizing that it's the end of the year and time to think about it. So we thought that that would be something that we could incorporate into the plan. And obviously not the evaluation, but when we do the end of 2021 evaluation and have during that evaluation time looked at setting goals and objectives for the next period, then that would be when these would come into play. Additionally, council, we could look at for ourselves what some goals and objectives might be. When you look at this, you know, looking at the breakdown, we have employees that are proud to work for the city of Ishpeming. They overwhelmingly is hard because 44% didn't take it, but a large percentage enjoy coming to work most days. Pretty much everybody, there were none who said neutral, disagree, or strongly disagree with, I enjoy working with others in my department. Everybody either strongly agreed or agreed. Find meaning in the work that they do, strongly agree and agree, only just a couple didn't agree to that. Recognized for accomplishments by my direct supervisor was a little not quite as strongly positive. I trust my direct supervisor was pretty positive. I trust city leadership, and I am well informed about important employee information were the two that had the lowest scores. When I look at that, I think that those two go hand in hand. I think that a lack of communication creates a breakdown in trust. And so I think that that is a good indicator that if we can start working on communication and work to improve communication and transparency, then we'll see that trust go up. So
another thing that we noticed is we don't have direct supervisors in a lot of places. We're filling those gaps. So I don't know that that carries much weight because you really don't know who they're talking.
Yep.
Another thing is that we discussed it, and I wholeheartedly agree, you're picking information from these people. So if you got a room full of employees and said, hey, how's it going, Billy Bob? You know, he ain't gonna say nothing. Or he's gonna say, oh, that's all right. So to get the truth, we have to do what we did. On their own, at home, you can't have the questionnaire on a box in the lunchroom. The Stu's gonna walk up and get it, and then later out on the job, and just, Stu, you ain't filling that thing out.
yeah, but maybe in the future we could do it that
Well,
way.
I hope,
Yep.
I certainly hope so. But I think for a while, we're getting the best information we can.
Yes, and so, yes, definitely thank you to those who did complete it.
For sure.
And for those who didn't, would encourage you to do it next time.
Incidentally,
Because we
did we send anything to the fire department? That's one thing that I did get contacted.
We did not send to the fire department, because they don't work on a day-to-day basis in the same capacity that the other employees that are here on a this is their full-time job. It's a little different.
I had two fire.
Well, and that's probably true. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what happened, but the control of the fire department would be the chief and their hierarchy. And if Jason and his officers decided, well, we'd like to do a survey, they would totally be supportive.
Well, and I did have two people come to me and from the fire department and say, we didn't get the survey, kind of felt left out, I think. So I think it might be in our interest too, to develop one for the fire department.
You can absolutely consider that. Stu?
Ooh, what? Ooh.
I know. You should have seen the first color scheme I had. It was impossible to tell them apart.
She was focusing on Ishpeming's right, white, and blue.
I did, yes. All right,
Hey.
all right.
Can't
I
do
will.
that to a colorblind person.
Okay. Are there any additional comments on this? This does not require any action. Digestion, yes. Okay, then we will move on to item number 15 is the proposed election inspector wage increase.
So you asked us to provide some data related to the election officials, where they sit in comparison to other communities and how we've been paying them. And so Kathy put together what we pay versus what other communities pay, and that is their salary, but Kathy even went as far as applying for and receiving a grant and giving bonuses to the election workers last year, which is not salary. So we're sitting actually very well in comparison to other communities. I guess, Kathy, do you have any proposal that you think that?
Well, in the memo that I wrote, like I said, I did compare with Marquette Mall, Ishpeming Township and Negaunee Township. Like Craig said, last year I got that center of, is that on? Okay. Center of Tech and Civic Life grant, and that with that use of that grant, I gave we gave the election workers an increase in pay for the November 20th election. And this is the first election. Last night was the first election since that election. So what we were paying them is comparable to what the other, areas gave their election inspectors, with the exception of Ishpeming Township. But I guess I would like to keep our workers at what we gave them, at least, what we gave them for November 2020 election, which was $12 an hour and $12.50 for the precinct chair. Basically, we gave them a $2 an hour increase for the November 2020 election with that grant. And I would like to hopefully keep the wages at that for this.
You'd like to keep them at $12 an hour?
Yeah, 12 and $12.50 for the precinct chair. Just keep them what we did for November 2020. And to keep them at that same.
So the grant brought them up to that level. The grant is gone, and then we backfilled and said we will just keep it there.
Well, this is the first election since then. It was last night. So.
So moved, support. Now, we provide lunch for them and refreshments during the day, and.
Yes, I usually get them a little snack for breakfast. We provide water, pop, and then I usually bring in dinner for them. So, and I did have an AV counting board, so we had the 2 precincts plus the AV counting board.
Okay. All right, so there was a motion to keep them the same, supported. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, then we will move on to discussion on regular part-time employee wages.
And again, you asked for just to re-see the data on our part-time. So this is the data that was proposed.
And so this was brought up for discussion. We did approve increases for these positions at the last meeting, or maybe 2 meetings ago. Is it last meeting?
So it's 2 meetings ago.
2
because
meetings
we did
ago.
a special council, but it was last council.
Okay, yep, and so we did just approve wage increases for all of these positions, along with
It was 3 meetings ago, sorry. It would have been 2 council meetings.
previously, we have discussed this and implemented increases for all of these positions. The question was raised as to whether or not we went far enough or whether that was sufficient raises. And so I think that looking at these and understanding where the sort of the national trend in wages is going, I would recommend that we look at increasing these over a period of the next year or two, when we revisit them again, and bumping them up higher at that point. But as far as today, personally, I think we just raised these. There was sufficient discussion, I felt, at the time, but we could implement a plan for increasing them at a greater rate in the future. But
I strongly suggest that we look at increasing them. I was a little short-sighted and didn't really do the math, and that's on me. But $10.93 an hour for a library clerk, that really is a low wage, in my opinion. Even $12.60 an hour as a city hall office assistant, in my opinion, is low. Once again, I think this goes probably towards the morale and the value that these employees feel. I don't want to, again, I think we strongly need to look at these wages. In the next year, I would like to do it now, but I don't know if that's the right thing to do, but $10.93 an hour, and that is just way too low for somebody working for the city of Ishpeming, in my opinion. As is $12.60 an hour. I'd like to see what the other council members think, but that's how I feel. I don't know if that's something that we want to look at, but I really apologize. I was very short-sighted on my part when I made the motion to 5%, because that did not raise them very much.
Did you do any research since you asked to review it again?
Yes and no. The yes part, I did kind of look at the adverts in the newspaper or on, different, like Indeed or something like that, for places that are looking for employees, and this puts us low.
I mean, nothing.
I did not.
For example, library clerk.
I did not contact any other libraries on this one, but they're working in a professional setting. They're working for the city of Ishpeming and the Carnegie Public Library, and they could make $14.90 starting out. Yes, I know they're part-time, but part-time doesn't mean much to me. They're still valued employees, in my opinion.
The thing is, and again, I have a problem with they're still valued employees. There's nobody that works for the city that I don't value.
I never insinuated that.
Which you voted in favor of yourself. And that's my problem, is that's not a good way to handle labor. You can't say, well, I wasn't thinking, I'd like to go back. And I'm not gonna sit here and say they're not, they might be worth $15 an hour. But this isn't the way we do it. In the old days, and the worst labor negotiations I ever saw in my life was this city, because it was full cost. It was a Gretzinger downstate, a legal firm. John Corrigan would spend $400 an hour on the phone by the minute to screw the employees here out of a few dollars. So we haphazardly put a contract together in the last 2 years, and we did have some inadequacies. But we voted to do it. It doesn't mean we can't go back, we can't revisit it.
And that's why I
But to bring it
asked.
up at a council meeting is the part I don't like, because I know if I went and talked to the guys at the DPW, they're probably, we should have got a couple more dollars. So it's kind of a slap in the face to the other people in our organization. And I agree totally with Lindsay. If we went a year and you as a counselor said, you know what, I remember last year, this was a little short to me. I'd like to see us bring that up.
So I had somebody tell me, who I respect greatly, you have to be able to sleep after a vote. You have to be able to sleep after a meeting. I have taken that into consideration with every vote I've made, every statement I've made. Am I emotional? Sometimes, yes. But sometimes we do have to revisit things if it looks like we made the wrong choice. And I'm not trying to insult you, Councilmember Scanlon. I'm not trying to insult anybody, but especially after seeing our surveys, and I'm trying to separate them, but that $10.93 an hour is a low wage, in my opinion. And
Well, you gotta remember, Jace, that's exactly what it was the night you said 5%.
yes, it is. And
So the part where you can't sleep.
am I wanting to revisit that because of that vote? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I want to somehow try and make it right. If we made a wrong choice, it's on us to make it right. If one of us feels like we did something, we should be transparent about it.
Well, sometimes you have to say, my bad. I missed that.
That,
I know now, if I could do it over, but you can't unring a bell.
oh, absolutely we can unring a bell. This council can unring a bell.
Not by one, you can't.
No, not by one you can't, but by a council vote you can. To say that we shouldn't revisit something when we've made the wrong choice, that doesn't fly in my generation. These are not, I understand that. These aren't people who are not part of that.
Labor force?
They're part of our labor force, but they're not part of the negotiation process.
Okay.
So do I think we need to make a change at this $10.93 an hour? This one especially, yes, I do. And I think we should make that, I think as a council, we should do that. I apologize, that is a little different from what I was saying earlier, but that is low.
So no one has made a motion. We had lots of discussion. So if there's a motion, otherwise we can continue to look at this as a future goal.
Your Honor, I would like to make a motion. I would like to make a motion that we bring the library clerk position up to $12.60 an hour this year and revisit the rest of it next year, because I think we need to make an increase. I'll make that motion right now, and I think that we should still look at what the wage needs to be in the future. But that is my motion. If I'm the only one, that's fine, but that's how I believe. I have to be able to, like I said, I have to sleep at night.
I totally get where you're going with this, but I don't think that we can cherry pick one over the other. I think as a whole, it's a problem. And the 5% increase is good because of the members that were in one bargaining, that they didn't get an increase in that, however, their base wages are not full workers. So I think the foundation of this problem is that the base wages that we're doing are too low. I don't feel comfortable just going with that one and saying, let's fix this one because it's so low right now. I think it needs to be collective effort and we need to look at it a little bit.
I do think we need to.
Are you supporting the motion?
Okay.
And I'm not,
Okay, so by
technically did
default, I think you
support
just
it.
supported. So, okay.
For discussion, yes.
but,
I'll
So-
support it for discussion.
and my
So-
rationale for this is
so-
that is our lowest wage here.
Yes, and I don't disagree with you, and I don't disagree with what she said either. I do think that in all cases, and as we just did in considering the election workers' wages, we did have a comparison We don't have a comparison. We've already made a decision. I think it's definitely on our radar. I don't think that anybody disagrees that it should come up, but tonight may not be the night. We do have a motion and a second, so we'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? So, roll call?
Councilmember Chapman?
Yes.
Councilmember Brady? Councilmember Scanlon?
No.
Councilmember Skug?
No.
Mayor Bean?
No.
Motion failed.
And I think that the clerks at the library are top shelf, wonderful. But that's not the way we run it.
Okay, so we will move on to 2022 City of Ishpeming fee schedule.
So the fee schedules that are proposed as change are highlighted. Everything else remained the same, so it makes it easier for you to see. Makes it easier to see, but I gotta put my glasses on to read. Sorry.
Yep, because I had seen that and I had wondered, and then I flipped all the way through, and then I was like, there's my answer.
Yes, so the last page, all the
Thank
way to
you.
the back, flip your page, these are recommended by the library board. And so what we've done is just highlighted what the board has recommended, which the short summary is under the proposed change. They gave a history with the current, it was basically printing prices and where they're at with respect to printing and their budget, and then the benefits to the community.
And the rest of this looks pretty straightforward, and the only other real changes I saw were planning and zoning.
Planning and zoning, which is getting us a little bit closer in line with what's going on in the rest of the communities across town. I think most went up by $25. Yep, 25.
Police chief, we just had a question about that. We've got a rate for live stand.
Yeah. Just a couple years ago, there was an opportunity possibly getting a live scan. Another community was getting a grant. We maybe got their old ones. So I developed the fee schedule to support that if we were to get it, and we never got it at that time, but they're still seeking to get it. But
the irony here is that for my wife's daycare, we have to get printed and checked annually. And I had to go to a place in the Sonic Temple in Marquette, and they charged like $85 for the live scan. And where do we gotta go, to the state police post? If somebody needs live scan, or the sheriff?
right, so when we arrest somebody, if we're gonna release them, we bring them to the state police post, and then release it from there. But the city of Marquette has a live scan, and also the sheriff's department does. So
My question to Steve was, because this person's under arrest in this, and so that means it's not part of the cop. I said, wouldn't it be beneficial for us to have a live scan here and maybe profitable?
arrest, I don't think that on an arrest is where you make the money.
No.
Because we don't charge the person arrested for.
Right, but you save the money of the transportation.
But would we be
Right,
able
right,
to, would we
exactly.
be able to use this for the purposes of fingerprinting for like your CPL or something?
Yes.
Like Forsyth Township has this,
Yes.
that's where I had to go.
Right, and applicant type prints we could use, and that's where that fee schedule would come into play.
But if you guys can get your heads together on that, I know.
And I've used live scan in the past for security clearances and things, the federal government pain in the butt system, and then the update comes, you have to buy a whole new system. If you bought it next week and then they changed the system, you might have to buy a new one without having budgeted for it. I mean, there are some downfalls to it. I'm not saying I recommend one way or another right now. This is an open discussion, but it takes a little bit of time. It can be finicky if someone's got too much oil on there or they have bad fingerprints. You can be sitting there for 20, 30 minutes on an individual, and now you're taking away from something else that an officer
Not to go
or
down a rabbit
someone's
hole,
doing,
but I'd
so.
like to
We can look
get
into,
some time to report.
we can look
Well,
into some math.
January, the state of Michigan offers grant opportunities for live scans. This past January, I inquired and the money went elsewhere. And they told me that check again this January. So on January, we'll check into the possibility of it. What is nice about the live scan, and even though it is a problem sometimes, it gives you instantaneous whether it's good or it's not good. When you do an ink print, which we do still do ink prints, people send it in, they get sent back saying they're not good enough. But with a live scan, you know right away whether it's acceptable or not acceptable, so.
Your Honor,
Sorry about the rabbit hole.
I'm gonna go down on here again. Did we not just revisit this a couple meetings ago and make, none of these increases are on this, have already been increased in the last 2-3 months when we did a vote on this. Didn't we just raise some rates in our proposed in our proposed rate and fee schedule?
There was some recommendation.
From the Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec, okay. That was, we're not raising anything again. That's where I
No.
want to get
No,
clarification.
the only thing we did
Okay.
was
Only
the
highlighting the new
alcohol
changes.
and the lodge rental fees.
Okay, I just
Which-
wanted to make sure
Which are
that-
included in here, but they're
Okay.
not changed from what we approved at
I
the
just wanted to make
previous
sure
meeting.
we're not raising something again. That's
Yep. No.
just a question.
Okay, are there any other questions on that?
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we adopt the proposed rate and fee schedule as presented tonight for 2022.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We will move on to item number 18 is the update on the Royal Bar property agreement for property transfer.
So this is outdating me. There was an agreement with the Royal Pub to do some improvements in order to obtain the lot next to them. Many of those have been achieved. They put a nice, beautiful fence up. They put a tent over that area for the summer. They put picnic tables out there. There was some discussion because the original plan included some trees and shrubs, but then those trees and shrubs, when it was evaluated, looked like they might be causing some sight issues for people driving along that street and not being able to have a line of sight down division, and it might cause a potential accident. So they recommended not doing those because of that light and sight distances. And then they also had agreed to an asphalt paved parking lot in the back. It's gravel and graded nice right now, but it is not finished as asphalt. But they have been, under the COVID restrictions and other things, still making the progress that was asked of them. But at this point, they've made the majority of them. I recommend that we hold them to some of the additional things that would be looked at, like the paved parking would be a nice tie-in with the nice new paved alley that's going there, which was originally agreed upon. But I don't know that it would stop you from being able to make the transaction. It would just be an addendum or some sort of statement that says we're willing to transfer with these conditions still attached to it.
I would agree with the city manager. I do believe that there should be 2 ADA accessible parking spaces paved. I do have to say, though, it looks really nice. It really does. They've done a really nice job. So I would, do we have to make a motion here? But I would support the city manager's recommendations on this.
I guess I just don't know, like, I don't think that the trees are a good idea. I think that the wrong shrubs could be a bad idea. There might be some opportunity for some planters or something that, with annuals or something that you might say, hey, we still want you to do something nice and decorative there. But the original agreement included trees and shrubs. And I don't think that that's gonna help us with sight distancing. But I think that the city council should really consider about the parking lot and making that. So you guys gotta decide like what did or didn't get, and what of things that didn't get, do you still want to hold them accountable for it, and what way do you do it? Because we're trying to transaction a parcel for which they've really done a good job of making it a nice, beautiful space.
I think the biggest ones are G, H, and I. I think they kind of go hand in hand. Your paved parking spots for that are handicap accessible, parking lot drainage, and exterior lighting, I think, are probably your biggest.
Yeah, I think they have party lights up, don't they? Hanging across,
Yeah,
I think they do.
I think they do have that, yeah.
So, because it would be hard to hang out there in the dark without some sort of lighting.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm less concerned about it kind of falls in with the landscaping, but I think that the G and H, the paving of the parking lot and the drainage to go along with that seem like pretty important items.
I think so too.
Yeah, I agree with you on lighting with the exception of the parking.
Yeah, well, that's where I was going. Yeah, that's where I was going with that. We are kind of responsible to have a street light, I mean, in all honesty. So I would say, yes, Mayor Pro Tem Scanlon's comments are exactly where I was going with that.
So did I understand the comment to be install exterior lighting over parking?
Yeah.
Is that what because it
That sounds reasonable.
entire premises. I'm just asking what I heard. I'm asking.
Yeah, no, I think that sounds very reasonable.
And we're gonna let them skate on the pavement?
No, I think they should be held to the pavement at a later date, whatever we might.
Well, I think that we should direct the manager to complete the execution of this document upon completion of the parking lot and the lighting.
And that's where I was going. If I had to make a motion, that would be my motion.
So would you want to extend this by a specified date or leave it open-ended?
They're not getting paving this year.
I was just gonna say.
They're not getting paving this year. Probably, most likely, I'm assuming the small company is the likely one to get it, because the big ones are just busy right away.
Would 2 years be
So,
sufficient for this?
I don't want us to extend the date.
Okay.
I would rather that Craig extend the date. Meet with them, when are you gonna have it paved by? Give them the window, can we do that? And then Craig puts that date in there?
I'm talking about extending the contract date. This all had to be done by October 30th.
Correct. And it's obviously, it's not, we don't know that why would we set a date when we have no clue? Like Jason said, 2 years? Why
And
not
that's-
let Craig
That's kind of why
get a date?
I don't have an idea.
Come back.
Yeah, well, I don't, he doesn't need to come back.
So, no, I guess, if I'm hearing Carolyn correct, right? There's an opportunity to renew this contract or say they've met the condition of the contract. And so October 3rd, or I'm sorry, the October this year is the end of that period, right? We're into an expired contract. We need to do some sort of extension of this contract in order to allow me to establish a timeline for the execution of those remaining items and come back to you with, okay, give me till December to come back with an extension document, but this contract you're allowing to continue for an additional month.
The whole thing depends on a contractor, not the council. So if we give you a year and you go back and they say, we got nothing, summer's booked, we're tight, then you gotta come back and say a year wasn't enough.
And that's why I didn't say a year.
So should we,
Why not?
3 years?
Doing up to some 2 years or 3 years or whatever you want to do, and have Craig.
I'll make the motion,
authorize Craig
a
to
3-year
negotiate.
window.
I'll withdraw mine then.
Or
And
amend it.
support, or yeah, either or. But I'll.
Gotta have at least 2 years, because
I
you don't,
agree.
the way this contract season's gonna go coming up, every municipality in the world is looking for
Yeah.
work, and these are the jobs they're gonna let go.
Yep.
Well, then I would like to amend that to 2 years,
That's fine. 2 is good.
because
Two.
at least 2, they've already had X number of years, and I know it was COVID and whatever, but they already had 3 years to work on it.
So I'll amend mine to 2 years.
Okay.
Okay, can somebody repeat the motion so that Kathy and I are square? I'm
Like,
sorry.
like the parking lot, pave the parking lot, and extension of 2 years.
Okay.
And a
Complete
drain.
use. Well, the paving is all inclusive.
And just making sure it drains. right.
Painted, everything.
Okay,
It was GH and then I on the parking lot. Was my motion.
2 years.
2 years from the 30th. Yes. Is that better, Carolyn? Because I was kind of wondering.
It'll work great, sure,
Okay.
as long as they want to agree to it, because it is an agreement.
Okay.
okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second, and we're all clear on the language. So all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, then that moves us along to item number 19, which is old business, of which there is one already on here, which is the report on Ishpeming Police Department procedure for stray animals. And I believe, Steve, you will probably take that one away for us.
I will.
All right.
So at your last meeting, you had asked me to basically give you a report on the dog shelter. So as a background, the Ishpeming Police Department has utilized the Ishpeming Township Hound for several years. I have been chief for almost 5 years, and I've never received a complaint about the condition of the pound or the treatment of any stray that we picked up. The Ishpeming Township Hound is a registered animal shelter in the state of Michigan, which is governed by the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. They are licensed to house stray dogs and cats for up to 4 days on strays without evidence of ownership and 7 days for strays with evidence of ownership. At that time, the stray is still housed. If the animal is still housed, it will be transferred to UPAWS. In 2019, the Ishpeming Police Department answered 60 animal complaints. This was less than 1% of all calls that we answered. 2020, the number was 50, which again is less than 1% of all the calls that we answered at the police department. And through September 2021, we have answered 59 complaints, which at this time is made up of 1.5% of the calls we answered. Of those 59 complaints from this year, we have placed 24 dogs and 7 cats in the pound. Of those 24 dogs, 22 were returned to their owner and 2 were brought to UPAWS. Of the 7 cats placed in the pound, 5 were returned to their owner and 2 were brought to UPAWS. Most of the strays brought to the pound are there for less than a day. Because of our proximity to the pound, if an owner is located after the animal is brought to the pound, an officer can release the animal sooner, many times within hours. Our current procedure, when an officer comes across a stray animal or if someone finds a stray, our first priority is to return the animal to the owner. There are times our officer has dealt with these animals before, or the animal has identification on the collar, or if the animal has a chip, we have a reader in our office and we can identify an owner. There are times officers delay bringing animals to the pound in hopes of finding an owner. Residents who find animals in the city do have an option to bring them to UPAWS versus calling us. The problem. Our procedure is not the problem. The Ishpeming Township Pound is not the problem. UPAWS is not the problem. The biggest problem is irresponsible pet owners. The responsible pet owners we hear from very soon after the animal is missing. And a lot of times we hear from them before we even pick up their animal. They'll call us and tell us they're missing their animal. There are animals we put in the pound and we never hear from the owner. And our critics are blaming us for this problem instead of the irresponsible pet owners that have abandoned their animals and quite frankly don't care about the welfare of those animals. Although we don't keep records of animals picked up that have dog tags, my experience tells me that most do not and therefore end up in the pound. That is a problem. According to the Marquette County Treasurer, in 2019, 64 dogs were licensed in the city of Ishpeming. 2020, 27 dogs were licensed. And in 2021, so far, 39 dogs were licensed in Ishpeming. Our average call can range from 10 minutes to 30 minutes or more, depending on what we find with the animal and whether or not we need to bring the animal to the pound. If we utilize UPAWs, you can add at least 60 to 90 minutes to the call. This would be tying up our officers for extended length of time and taking our officers far outside of our city limits, unable to respond to calls in the city. This also means longer stays in the pound for the animal. UPAWs has very limited hours, and because of the proximity of UPAWs to Ishpeming, my officers would not travel back to the shelter to release an animal if an owner is found. And they will have to wait in UPAWs until they are open. UPAWs. We have utilized UPAWs in the past and have had a contract with them. The main issue I had with the contract is that UPAWs was billing us for animals brought to UPAWs from citizens who claim the animal was from the city of Ishpeming. There is no follow-up done by UPAWs, and they don't notify us that the animal was brought there from the city. After receiving a bill of over $400 for 2 cats, 2 months after they were dropped off at UPAWs, I was advised that they don't have the staff to follow up or to make a call to us notifying that those cats were found in our city. We paid the bill and I canceled the contract. My recommendation are to make no changes. It is the most practical solution. It is safe for the animals, it is convenient for our department, it is affordable to the city, and it makes the most sense. Thank you.
Steve, can you just address what the city of Ishpeming means when a person drops it off at UPAWs? It could include township. It could include where they might be on the border of Negaunee.
They do ask an address. They do ask an address, but they don't always, they may not get it right. I mean, the 2 cats, one was found in Lake Sally. That's a pretty big area out there, but most of it does reside inside the city. The other one was found up north around the 8th edition, which is close to the township, whether it was ours or not. My big concern was, why didn't you tell us? Because when we find an animal, we document it, we have it, somebody calls us, we can get them the dog back or the cat back. If we knew those cats were there and then were from there, that could have helped get them back and helped save us apparently from paying $400. But
I just want to say, I think it's good to have that report, Chief. I really appreciate that. I hope those people who did come to the meeting appreciate it. It was educational for me. I truly appreciate that. I don't believe we've done anything wrong. So I think that was a good report. And I think it shows that the police department is really trying. And what you said about a lot of these animals not having dog tags, they cost $5, people.
it's $8.
$8 for a dog tag?
$20 for 3 years.
Oh, for a license.
For a license.
Oh, yeah, I was actually saying just their little tag you can buy from Chewy or PetSmart.
Right.
They're $5, people. Buy one. That's going to prevent
But if they had a
lot.
license, we could track it too.
And
Which is technically a law, and most of us don't abide by that law.
I will agree with you on that. And I'm going to echo what Chief Snoward has said. I'm going to stand by. I was the one who helped bring it out here. Now I'm going to stand by my chief and agree that we haven't done anything wrong. And I think it shows that our police department has went above and beyond to try and return animals. So I'm going to echo what the chief has said. Buy a dog tag from Chewy or PetSmart or Mersey Dotes, wherever you choose to go and get one. License your pet. I will license mine as an example because I haven't. I'll admit that. And I think this should close the case on it. At least it does in my opinion.
Thank you.
Quick question, is the pound in West Ishpeming, like inspected? Do they have to
Yep.
stay up to some kind of code?
It's inspected by the state. They are licensed and they so often, I don't know how often, but it does have to be licensed by the state, and they do inspect it on a regular basis.
And they are licensed and
They
certified right now.
they are licensed. It's, you know, it's not a Marriott, you know, by any means, but neither is U-Pause. So, I mean, it serves a purpose, and the purpose is very short-term. It's not a long-term facility. But it is so close to us that it makes so much sense and allows our officers to get back on the road doing what they should be doing.
And I think you just said the one thing we need to reiterate, it's not a long-term solution, it's a short-term solution. And
Most certainly.
the stats that you put out there about how many pets are returned within the first couple days, even the first couple hours, I think needs to be pointed out that our police department is doing a lot. So I will wrap it up. Thank you, Chief.
All right, thank you. So we'll move on to any additional old business. Mr. Scanlon, do you have any old business?
I do. I'm gonna address Mr. Mercier just briefly, and I'll do it under old business. Are you familiar with across from the VFW, that building that caved in?
I've seen it, yes.
That's a good, bad example, and it kind of explains to you why it's such a problem. Councilman Skog and myself have been in court with landlords. The chief and his inspection people have always done a great job. Here's where it gets bad. We had him ticketed, appearing in court, and everything pending, and he sold the building to one of his employees for $1. For $1 on a quick claim deed, that whole policy, every ticket, everything was gone. It was wiped out because the owner changed hands. Then his employee is running now, we're chasing him, and he's gonna flip it. The county helps us, and they're going broke, but we have a thing called Marquette County Land Bank. And they've bought lots with contaminated, or whether it's mold or just abandoned houses. They buy it, and they've had the money to raise the house and pay the tipping fees and everything, but they're going broke. So that's part of the address we saw tonight. And we're gonna have, do you remember, Kath, when our light committee meeting is?
We just had one.
We just had one and I was unable to make it.
Okay.
We'll have another
But
one.
at our, we'd be more than happy for you to come
Yes.
and sit in, because it sounds like it's an easy thing to do, send the city backhoe over there and rip her down and get rid of it, but there's so many obstacles in our way. But be assured, we know what you're talking about, and we're working hard to try and get around it, but you're more than welcome to come to those meetings.
And I want to echo,
Yes,
I want to.
I'll have Kathy can call you and let you know.
I want to echo what Councilmember Scanlon is saying too, and the other part of the problem is often when the city gets the people into the courtroom, the judge just kind of dismisses it. So it's a problem. But there are some of the blighted properties that have been complained about. They actually are being purchased and they're trying to either tear them down or revamp them. So there are a lot of people, landlords or people who bought things, that are trying to do the right thing now. And we see that with a lot of them, so.
On that, in that property in particular, so I recently purchased the vacant lot next door. I think we've had a conversation about that, actually. And we actually offered the owner of that property some money for that property, and he said, no, it's worth more for me to keep it, which is unfortunate, but, so I don't know.
We're working hard.
We're working on it, and I think that part of the presentation with LSCP, that was a very specific goal to one of those items. So I hope, you hope, and probably, as I said, the rest of the city hopes that we can start working towards some more effective solutions for that problem. Okay, Stu, you have old business?
Yeah.
Okay.
These sites were apart. What about something when
That lot.
nothing is done?
That the DDA ended that contract. In fact, the owner has said that he did not want to renew or pursue it any further, so that has concluded. And DDA is working to see what their next step is, whether they put it up for sale or whether they offer it to someone else. But it is out of the hands of Buck Sub Shop.
All right. Diz, do you have any old business? Jason? Okay. Craig?
I briefly hit it, but in a different area, talking about budget. I just want to make sure it's clear the $100,000 that we set aside to try to do roads yet this year will not be executed this year. We're going to do the ditch work at the Bell Hospital Road, also known as Farm Road, to manage some of the runoff this year and put it on for the spring of next year to start working on that. And that went, I went and sat at the hospital board and talked to them as well about that circumstance.
Your Honor.
I actually do have some old business, I'm sorry. At the last council meeting, we did have somebody ask us, and this was in public comment, what have we done to investigate the needles that were on the ground over on East Ridge Street? And I remember that was a conversation on a public comment, and that's something that I want to bring up because that is a serious issue. I don't want to put you on the spot. I'm sure you had somebody go out and look at it, but.
Well, I'm not, I can't say specifically on that issue, but I can tell you that we get calls a lot about needles in different places and we pick them up.
And I know you guys
do. That particular incident was quite involved. And I know my officers were involved in some issues with the property and with the storage facility and neighbors issue, and they've dealt with that, but I can tell you that there are needles everywhere and we pick up a lot of them.
But if you call the police, let us know, or report it to code enforcement, or call somebody at the city, we'll go.
We have sharp containers in our vehicles and we'll come get them and take care of them.
And that is the biggest thing I wanted out of this.
Not that we want to, but somebody has to, and so we do it.
So that's the biggest thing I wanted to make sure I brought up, was that we have resources to do this. It was something that I wrote down and I should have brought it up.
We're also making several arrests every day. 72 this month, last month arrests, 101 the month before, and many of them are meth arrests.
And I follow the app on my phone. You guys are doing a good job.
Well, it's good and bad. It's good that our officers are out there working. It's bad that we do have an issue here, but we are dealing with it.
If our officers keep it up, they'll get sick of it and they'll move.
I hope so.
I have to say, we were one of the best agencies. I see the work.
Okay. So that is it for old business then. We will move on to our last section of public comment. Oh, I'm sorry. Nope, we have new business. Does anybody have new business? Pat, new business?
No, ma'am.
Diz? Stu? Jason? Craig?
Of course, sorry. They're shaking her head. Just to point out the flyers, there's a colored flyer handed you. This is just the background that on stuff that we already talked about with respect to the restoration initiative grant. That this is an LSCP, like Lake Superior Watershed Partnership grant, and we were just included. This is going to be part of their spring effort next year to replant the area of the campground as we finish that. And then there's another one here that says recreation economy for rural communities. Myself and Partridge Creek Farm are looking at trying to finalize a draft for this and solicit some support letters. This is a grant to help with planning. It's planning assistance is the grant from EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. And there doesn't seem to be any cash match requirement of the city. So it's free money with free money from FEMA, or not FEMA, but from EPA. And it would help us with some planning assistance and how we could look at strategies for improving recreational tourism. And Partridge Creek Farm is is including or requesting inclusion under agro-tourism linkage, where they're right next to the trail with the new Jasper Light Farm that they're building. So we're working to see if we can't secure a little bit of planning assistance in that. So again, it's no cost to city. If we get it, it's free. If we don't get it, it's just a few minutes of effort. So just letting you know I am putting that application in. It doesn't require anything. It's not a budget decision. Thanks.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any other new business? Okay. Then now we will move on to the additional public comment. So this is limited to 3 minutes. Is there anyone in the room who would like to provide additional public comment? Okay. How about on Zoom? Is there anyone on Zoom for additional public comment?
We currently have no attendees for public comment.
All right, then they can't comment. Last call here. Go right.
Is this comment about anything relating to the?
Yep, it's public comment. It's just like the first one, except you only have 3 minutes this time.
And just 1 second, sir. I gotta.
I guess I'd like to say something about the pound thing the chief was talking about. If I remember right, last month at that meeting, the people that came here with that issue were from Marquette. They weren't from Ishpeming. So, and also, I'm kind of wondering now, you got me thinking about this deal when somebody hands something off like that for $1. If they've had any kind of things issued by the city, warnings or anything like that, and they're doing this just to avoid, I would think that the city council could come up with something to try to counteract that kind of behavior, because if you could get somebody like that under oath, who they're turning these properties over to, that could be conspiracy. If somebody's trying to avoid things with the city.
And the county's looking at it legally, because it's not common to just Ishpeming, it's other places too, so, yeah, you bet.
Switch my camera back.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move on to mayor and council reports. Jason, do you have anything?
Yeah, sorry, Stu. I just want to thank our city clerk, Kathy Smith, and our election workers. So thank you. The Ishpeming Ski Club is having a ski tournament December 18th and 19th, junior national qualifier. So that's a weekend event. They will be coming to us with some requests. And that's all I've got.
Okay, Stu, got anything? Okay. Liz? Pat?
Nothing.
And I do not either. Managers report.
I'm gonna save you. I think we talked enough about all the things going on in the city so far tonight with the other reports, so.
Yep. And Caroline?
Nothing, thank you.
Honor, I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll report that.
Right from the top.
All right.